All right, and welcome everybody. I'm Anthony at ECF, and we have a bit of a mini series going on, and I want to invite some guests on and share their stories. We'll call it. And I made a Facebook post the other day, which I need to look up right quick, but I made a Facebook post the other day asking about can we find our soulmates on social media and some of the things that we should probably look into when dealing with these things and some precautions and and some of the good things that come out of it as well. But without further ado, I want to introduce our guest. Welcome, Jonny and Emily. Uh, want
Hi.
to give y'all a few moments to introduce yourselves to everybody and thank y'all for being here.
You're very welcome. Um, I'm Johnny Whiting, Jonathan Whiting on Facebook. That's my wife, Emily. Uh, we've been married for almost 24 years, and we met before all the dating apps and Facebook and everything like that. Um,
I put an ad in a magazine. Where you get the magazine?
yeah.
Just as something silly. Oh, I thought I'd do this. Nothing will come of it, but why not? And then I'd forgotten about it. I sent in my $34 and what I'd written, and
It was Backwoods Home Magazine. Um,
Wow.
this magazine is it's a magazine for people who want to live a self sufficient rural lifestyle, homesteading. And I was subscribed to this magazine long before I met Emily. Um, and and one of the things that they do is in the back of the magazine they have a personal section where they put ads for um, people to meet other like-minded people, and
it's mostly men looking for a woman
yes,
to live in his cabin with.
and I
I
gotta
can
say,
imagine.
I gotta say, I was not looking to meet anybody through this magazine. I used to read the personal ads because some of them were just so ridiculously hilarious.
So I thought I could do that too. I'll just do something silly. Yeah,
Huh.
you gotta read it. Oh, I can't believe I wrote that.
She wrote, white female libertarian medieval artist, attractive, 28, 5'2", 125 pounds, financially secure, chairman of the county Libertarian Party, lives in South Carolina, looking for under 40 Christian libertarian with diverse interests, knowledge of history, mild temperament, and a love of books, poetry, and medieval weaponry.
Wow.
Now,
Pretty specific.
Yeah, that's no doubt pretty specific. But hey, that's somebody you might want in that cabin if you're away on a hunting trip or something. Somebody comes around looking to have an easy meal or something. Might want to raid your cabinets or something like that. Yeah, yeah. I
well,
think the scripture said to cut their head off if we rob somebody, right?
Yeah. Oh no,
well,
I didn't want someone boring.
well, at the time, I had gotten out of the Navy on a medical discharge, and they had sent me up to Washington State to do my physical therapy and everything like that because this was right after the Iraq War and Balboa Naval Hospital was overcrowded, so they sent me up there to do my physical therapy and then my out processing. And so after I was done with that, they told me I had the ability to go to college. So I went ahead and went to college there, and I was just finishing up college when um, when this edition of the magazine came out, this issue.
Oh.
And what was funny was is I had a friend who we played pranks on each other, and he knew I read this magazine, and I saw this thing in there, and it suited me too much. So I thought he had put this in here to try to get me, because he knew I wanted to get back to the South. So I think I at first thought he did this to try to play a prank on me. So I sat there, I looked at that ad, and I waited a good week or more before I said, well, I'll try it and see how the response is. And I responded to the ad.
Yeah. Now he was on the West Coast, near where the magazine's published, and I was in Greenville, South Carolina. So I hadn't
Wow.
even, I hadn't even gotten my copy of the magazine, and then I get this email, and my thought was, why is this guy writing to me? Who is this? What's this all about? And like, oh yeah, I remember. I can't believe I actually filled that in and mailed it. And then my next thought was, how did he get a copy before me? That's not fair.
Yeah, because she hadn't even gotten this magazine yet.
Yes.
Wow.
I'd forgotten. so I got his email, and then I started getting this flood of other emails because I put my email address in the magazine. I didn't think anything wrong with that.
She was very, very naive about this kind of thing.
So I got all these people, and he was the least strange of them all. There were a lot of people inviting me to communes. And it's like, I did say libertarian.
Yeah.
And they wanted to swap wives, and it's like, I did say Christian.
Yeah.
and I got another guy from Reykjavik saying that I should consider moving to Iceland because it's a real party place. Like,
You know,
so.
I actually wouldn't mind going to Iceland, but I don't want to live there.
Yeah. Not moving from the South and then moving to a place called Iceland.
Yeah.
Which is not working.
I don't think so.
But we I guess the closest thing to meeting online or internet dating or what have you was that we exchanged a lot of very long emails for a long time before we ever talked on the phone or anything like that.
Right.
And so
I was raised a Baptist, but I always had a lot of questions that I would ask my pastors, and nobody ever gave me answers. So I threw all these crazy Bible questions at him, and he was the first person who ever answered them.
Yeah, because I was already a Torah follower at the time, and so and she had all these questions from things where she would actually read the Bible and then ask the pastor about it. And of course, her parents would be totally embarrassed by this. And so, so I would actually answer them. And the first time I started answering them, she would sit quietly after I would answer it. And she would say, nobody's ever answered that question for me.
Yes, I would usually get answers like, if you had faith, you would know the answer.
Yeah. Stereotypical Protestant response. Oh, you need to have enough faith.
Okay.
And as soon as we get that cognitive dissonance out of our minds and start listening to the word of Yah like he says it, instead of trying to twist it around to what we want him to be saying, then it starts to make a lot of sense. But thank you for sharing that. That's one of my biggest things these days is, look, folks, let's just listen to what he's saying for what he's saying. He didn't joke. he meant what he said. Anyway, we'll get into that later, maybe.
Well, that and the other thing was that, I gave her the answers in the whole context of the passage in Scripture, rather than just giving her like a one verse response, which is how everything gets taken out of context. And that's what
Right.
she always saw growing up in these Protestant churches. And I did too in growing up. And, my family was very deeply in the Episcopalian church. And so, there's very little scripture going on around there, but they'll give you a lot of things out of the prayer manual. So,
oh yeah,
he would always quote. He would read the entire chapter, almost the entire book of the Bible, just to answer one little question.
Yeah. So that's what a lot of our first interactions were with, and then we called, decided to talk to each other on the phone, and I had her call me at where I was working at that time, and I told her that I would stay a little bit late after work because I had some things I had to finish up, and I was also waiting on a phone call from my boss.
Right.
And
so I call him, and
I forget that she's going to call.
And so he immediately picks up and starts talking. Hey, Neil, I've got this project and I'll be working on it.
Oh,
on and on. And then he stops. I go, Johnny?
I'm going on a good minute and a half talking about everything about this project that we were working on. And then I hear,
the progress is
Johnny?
great.
Wow. I bet you were shocked. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah. I didn't expect her to call, really. But then I told her, okay, I got her phone number, and then I didn't have a cell phone at the time. This was
Yes.
99, 2000.
I remember the days.
And, most people didn't have a cell phone at the time. And so, but I had phone cards.
Yes, lots of stacks.
So,
I remember those.
So what I did was I got her number, and then I told her that I would call her right back a little bit right as soon as I'm done talking to my boss. And then my boss was on the phone, so I had to get off the phone with her and talk to my boss. And then once I was done with that, I left and I went down the road from where I was working, and there was a grocery store there that had a payphone out front. And so I called her back from the payphone and then had her call me back because my phone card didn't have that much time on it. But
Right.
Back, and then we ended up talking with me standing outside
on a payphone in the rain.
Yeah, in the rain. And we talked for about a good 2 hours.
Yes, is that my family had been driving me crazy, and so I was telling him all that was going on, and then I was so upset, and he was so kind to listen, and he kept having this great advice. You're not in the wrong. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not what they say you are.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's good that y'all got to kind of know each other and sort of knew a little bit about each other before y'all actually talked on the phone, and especially before y'all drove all the way across the country, it sounds, to meet each other in person and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And y'all say it was 24 years, y'all?
Yep.
24 years ago.
Yeah. We went back to the publisher place of the magazine about 2 years after this issue, and wanted to say hi. And so we drove there. It was in Oregon. What was the name?
It was in Gold Beach, Oregon, is where this magazine is produced.
Yes.
And we own every issue of this magazine.
Really? Every issue?
I've been a subscriber of this magazine since issue like number 2 or 3, and
Wow.
she started getting a subscription to it at like
1998.
yeah, something like that, and so yeah, we own every single issue of this magazine, and
Right.
And then when we married, of course, we had double copies of everything.
yeah,
So
so
I had
yeah.
to reduce it down to one subscription.
But
Well,
we got what we did was that after we got married, and unfortunately that right about not long after that was 9/11, and
right.
so uh, we kind of wanted to get away from all the craziness that was happening. So we took a road trip and we went to the main office of this magazine, and it's in a little bitty town on the coast of Oregon, and we had to drive. We had to drive
Mountain
through
driving.
through this canyon that was a dirt road that was not much wider than my Ford Gargantuan, and with a ravine going down, and it went like this all through this mountain range, and then you come out on the coast of Oregon to a little bitty town called Gold Beach, Oregon, and that's where their office is. And
Right.
and we had our son Tyler at the time, and they did a story on us, and
Here, may I hold it closer?
there
Oh,
is
awesome.
there,
Yeah.
and there's Tyler right there, and
Tyler was he loves light switches, and so we're talking with the people at the magazine, and Tyler's crawling around, and all of a sudden the lights go off, and all their computers went down.
Oh no.
computers didn't go down. The people who worked there were afraid their computers were going to go down, and they hadn't backed up all their files for the next issue of the magazine.
That went,
So they freak out thinking the power's about to die.
we're like, it's
But
not
no,
the
no,
Russians.
it's just our
not an EMP.
toddler. He loves light switches. Oh, he absolutely, he loved light switches. From the time he could stand, before he could walk,
When he was still in diapers.
before he could walk, in our house in Greenville, we had this bank of light switches. They had like 6 light switches that operated all the lights around the living room there, and so he would just stand there on this bench and just flick the light switches off and on. He knew what each and every one of those light switches operated, and he could stand there for an hour or more. And
Well, is he an electrical engineer today?
He became
I told her
electrician.
he's still in diapers, and he's not even walking yet. He's just standing, and he's flicking light switches. I said, that boy's going to be an electrician.
Yeah.
Well, he's homeschooled his whole life. He finished high school at 16, and then he went on to the technical college here, and graduated top of his class as a commercial and residential electrician.
And hired less than a week.
Got hired on with a major company less than a week after leaving college, and then he got his journeyman certification at 23 years old.
Wow.
But back to the story. The lights turn off. We're saying, don't worry, it's nothing. It's just Tyler. So we're looking around. Where is he? And then behind us was this several pallets of boxes, probably the magazine issue ready to go out. And behind those boxes was the light switch. And Tyler had climbed over all these boxes to get to the switches. I don't know how
he had a mission.
Yeah, he was.
And so I couldn't reach him, but
I reached over the boxes and grabbed him, and of course he's like, no.
Don't take my toy away.
Yeah,
Well, that's pretty amazing. That's
but
that's
That's why I'm holding him,
yeah,
and he's a little grumpy face because
yeah,
he didn't flick all the light switches.
yeah. If you see his face there, he's mad because I'm holding this magazine, and there's him, and he's in the middle of saying down, down, because he wanted to get over to get the light switches. And so,
I say no down, and then trying to smile.
yeah, we're trying to smile from
Yeah.
the picture while trying to contain a toddler.
Yes.
They can definitely steal the camera and the conversation, Katie.
Oh yes.
Right.
But yeah, but it's been a journey ever since then. We've had all of our families were just said they're not going to make it. They're never going to stay together. But yet, both of us, our siblings, each of us, are divorced or never married. Their lives are a wreck.
Yeah.
And 24 years later, we're still together. And
It sounds like y'all put the one in your in your marriage that's going to make sure it does work, and that's Yahweh.
yes.
Yeah.
And the other thing is and this is the key thing, and this was the reason why us meeting through this magazine was so critical, because one, it showed that we had the same dreams and aspirations of how we wanted to live. We wanted to live in a rural area. We wanted to have livestock and gardens, and we wanted to have a little homestead set up.
And I wanted to ask you about that. Is that what y'all are doing now? Y'all live on a homestead now and stuff like that? That's amazing. That's something that I'm wanting to do, and I see a lot of people that's wanting to, and I don't blame them, because we call this country a free country, but it's anything but. Especially when the ones we have that's supposed to uphold the law against all enemies, foreign and domestic, are the ones breaking the law.
Yeah.
And they're upholding their policies. And yeah, I want to get out in the woods too, or out in the desert. I don't care. I just want them to leave me alone. I don't bother them. Why do they got to bother me?
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what we wanted. And
I was looking for like a Davy Crockett kind of guy, and someone who could just go out into the woods for a whole year and not need anything but what he was carrying, and like that's the man who you cannot control. You cannot oppress by a government. It's he's so self-sufficient. What are you gonna do?
I think that should. Sorry. I think that should be a good message to all women these days. They should look for a real man, somebody that knows how to do that. Don't look for these little boys running around in their little graffiti all over their pants and stuff, talking about I'm a man. No, he's not. He's a boy. He hasn't even lived life. His parents gave him everything he's had, and yeah, he learned how to be cool with his words or something like that. Yeah. Women should look for a real man that's going to go out there and take care of them and their family, no matter what it takes.
In 24 years, Emily has never had to work.
No,
she never had to have a job.
Amazing.
Drive her home.
We had two kids that we homeschooled.
Yeah, and and we've now, it's not to say that we haven't had hard times. We've had some times where things were pretty rough. And money was tight, and and there's still that happens sometimes. But the thing about it is that we're not beholden to anybody. We own our property, and we've worked hard to make that happen.
Right.
And we've done that together, and we understood that we had to work together to make what we wanted to have happen.
Yeah, we saw that the dreams that we had could not be possible without the other person.
Yeah.
So, and we had to
Right.
work together. So we devised these set of rules that even when we're furious, mad at each other, we're not going to insult each other. We're not going to scream at each other. Don't slam doors.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
basic ground rules. And
Yeah.
And you know, I think every couple's going to go through a little of that, especially
oh
from
yeah,
the get go. You know, because you got to learn who each other is, and then
Yeah.
once you get to kind of get used to each other, get to know how they are, then that's when you can start to grow. I mean, we first got to plant the seed, right? Or we first got to till the soil, right? So yeah, I think everybody should think about this. It's not going to be perfect to start with. You have to work on things to make things perfect. Did we start following the Torah and just be perfect at it? No, we had to learn at it. We had to learn what it was about and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I really do think that people should really keep that in mind when they get married or when they get together, and that way they're not divorcing after a year or after 6 months and stuff
yeah,
like that. You
Yeah.
know that they're just feeding the bear is what I call it. They're feeding the government. That's all they want. They want to just get in all of your life and every little aspect of it, and they want to run it. So
yeah,
now, me personally, I ain't ever signing another marriage license as long as I live. Won't
Yeah.
do it. But I'm not saying that I'm not going to get married again.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to let. I'm
Marriage
not
isn't
putting
about
myself in. I'm not
marriage
going
isn't
to
about
contract
a
with Steve.
government paperwork. You know.
Right.
So, and what makes marriage is your commitment to Yah between each other, and
Exactly.
um, and you have to make your marriage priority, and and one of the things that I would also say that as a husband and as a father is that you have to it, the biggest thing you have to protect your wife and your children from is not the government. It's family.
oh yes,
You know,
Yeah.
I had to the from day one I had to lay down the law with family members, telling family members
yeah,
you don't have authority here. You don't come and tell us what we are and are not going to do. You're not going to tell my wife what she's going to do. You're you
Yeah.
know
yeah,
you have to realize that you have access to our children by our permission, not because
Mhm.
you have a right.
yeah.
And
So, but I thought it was amazing that all my family hated him. Like he's perfect. There's not a one who likes him. That's great. Yeah. So I remember when I first became libertarian, libertarians were talking all about the government suppressing you and like, the government really doesn't bother me so much as my family drives me crazy. And so that was another thing I was looking for is a man who would keep them at bay. Just tell them to get off my back and
Yeah.
yeah, I was
I
fortunate
think a
from
lot of. Sorry.
I was fortunate from my side of the family was that they had already disowned me by that time, by the
yeah.
time I met her. So, you know,
So he
so
did come with family. It's like
yeah,
another bonus.
yeah. So, but but even if my family were around, I would still do the same thing with them. And so that's probably one of the hardest things to for so many people today to do is because your extended family beyond your now created family, you have these other family members that want to interject themselves into you. They want to
Yeah.
inject it into your decision making. They want to inject it into themselves with their opinion on how or what you should be doing with your lives or how you're raising your kids. Because I
Uh,
mean, this the
but,
just the arguments over homeschooling the kids
Oh,
was just you know and then we had
well,
arguments with people over not vaccinating the kids. and we had arguments with people over, you know, their position with the kids and what boundaries are, and
Right.
so
Everybody wants to interject in everybody else's business, but they don't ever want to look at their own, huh? They
yeah,
want to
Exactly.
get the splinter out of your eyes, but they don't think about the board in their own. And
Yeah.
I agree.
believe me, I
You
know
know,
about that.
no, I didn't really want to ask you too much about it, but uh,
But yeah, it really is something that a husband needs to realize, is that he has to prioritize his family before anything of any extended family wants, or what they think, or anything like that, and that includes
right,
his own. And
Yeah.
so,
And we started figuring out this dynamic. My family, mostly my mother, would try to tell us what we needed to do, and she'd drive us crazy, and dad too, and they would stress me out, and then I'd be so stressed. Every little thing that he would do would stress me, and then so we would argue, and so he noticed where this was always coming from.
yeah,
So he had to start trying to cut in the bud
yeah.
early on.
yeah,
I mean, we had to do it like at one point. See, her father was a pediatrician, and we were sitting in a restaurant with the kids,
Yeah,
having supper with them,
at the Olive Garden.
and yeah, at an
Yeah.
Olive Garden,
Yeah.
and her dad started getting all upset over
That we weren't
we
getting
weren't
kids
getting the kids vaccinated, and he started getting all upset and said, "If I find out that these kids get sick from anything, I'm going to be calling." And I stopped him right there. And I said, who do you think you're going to be calling? And do you think that is going to endear your daughter to you?
Yeah.
And I said, I turned to her and I said, "Why don't you go ahead and take the kids to the car?"
Yeah.
And that's when I had a serious talk with them, and I explained to them that what he did was he just threatened to call the government on us, who would then want to take away our children from us.
that's exactly right. And
And
and that should be good advice for everybody. Never get child services involved with your
yeah,
children.
and
Never,
Oh
ever.
yeah.
we didn't talk to her parents for what, a good
6 months.
a good 6 months or more.
Yeah.
Didn't even talk to them. And
And
so
my brother was yelling at me, "You destroy the family. It's all your fault." And that he wanted us to look at his perfect marriage, but now he's divorced. He left his wife and sons to be with another man, and he's
Oh,
gender
yes,
that's perfect,
confused.
ain't it?
yeah,
That's perfect. Hey,
I know, it's
yeah,
like, so I guess he didn't have the perfect marriage after all.
yeah. Both my sisters divorced. My brother was, I mean, he's just a filthy slob, and he doesn't have any. Um, he's never been married, um, and both of her
My
brothers.
other brother divorced too.
Yeah, both of her brothers are divorced, and we like to joke that I'm the last spouse standing.
hey, they should have listened to you to start with, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's and but the one thing that I have seen in so many marriages that have problems, it the problems start from the outset, and that was why we wanted to emphasize about how we met through this magazine.
Yeah, I prayed hard. I sincerely hard that um that Yahweh would direct me to the right man, and because I have no patience, I said I need him right away. So, sure enough, a few
Yeah.
months later, he's the first email I get.
Wow.
Yeah,
I know.
and the not only what she wrote in the ad, but the very fact that both of us were subscribed to this magazine, and this magazine deals directly. It is directly for people who want to live the lifestyle that we have.
Right.
That's the whole premise. In fact, they're
What's the
they're
name of the magazine one more time?
it's Backwoods Home Magazine.
Backwoods Home Magazine. I might have to check that out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's their motto is practical ideas for self-reliant living.
Yeah. So we were looking for the same kind of person, like two puzzle pieces that would just fit.
Yeah, and
That's
now
beautiful.
that does not mean that that you need to be the same kind of person. Emily's a very different personality from me, and
I'm an artist. He's a practical engineer. Thinks logically, which drives me crazy sometimes.
Hey, that sounds like a beautiful combination, if you ask me. I'm no engineer, but I've done lots of engineering jobs, and hey, when you can make it artful, hey,
Yeah.
that's when you get noticed in your work too.
Yeah, but it's
So
what it comes down to is that it's sharing the same values, sharing the same ideals, sharing the
Right.
same
religion.
the religion is that's
Religion's
not
the
even
foundation.
that's just the whole foundation, but it beyond that,
Yeah.
what you have to think about what you're looking for.
Right.
What do you want in life? And a lot of these marriage counselors and everything like that, their first question is, what do you want in a spouse? That's not what
No.
you should. You need to first figure out what you want in life,
Yes.
and
Right.
then from there you decide, well, okay, if I want this in life, then I need to find a person who shares that, and
Right.
then we talk about the other things. You talk about you know um, your work and how you're going to raise the kids, how you're going to homeschool them, how you're going to raise your kids with family,
Yeah.
how you're going to raise them on a homestead.
Yeah,
Things-
people have forgotten the concept of courtship.
Yes,
There needs to
yes.
be
Yeah.
a long period of time where y'all are just talking, and I don't mean talking about what kind of restaurant you want to go to next. No, you got to discuss, politics, religion, family, kids, school, debt, finance, everything.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it has to
And
go
I
on a long time.
and I agree. I see so many people, and the way I kind of put it or view it, whatever, they jump into marriage and then court later. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's completely backwards. They should do it the other way around, and then they might know who they're actually marrying, and especially when Scripture describes what a marriage consists of altogether.
Yeah.
But people don't read that anymore. They listen to somebody behind the pulpit.
Yeah.
Um.
Yeah.
Now, also, you gotta carry that on though. Courtship is for before the marriage. Dating is for after the marriage. Okay?
Yeah. There you go. Very well said.
Whenever we can, I try to take Emily out, and fortunately for us, our kids are old enough now; they're grown adults, so we can leave them to their own devices, and we can go and whether it's just going for a drive, or whether we're going to a movie, or we're going to go do something fun,
Right.
just to spend some time being together.
Yeah, our definition of dating now is going out to do something fun and not doing any errands. I can't just stop at Michael's and get some more paintbrushes.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we're gonna
Or
go
stop
out
at the grocery
and we're
store.
not stopping at the feed store.
Yeah, that's our goal.
How do you pass that place up?
Yeah, I promise
That's
you.
that's like going to town and not going to Walmart. I mean,
Oh, we never shop at Walmart,
me either.
but yeah, that's it. Where you can spend some time just focusing on each other again, because
Yeah.
um, you
And
know,
try not to talk about the kids the whole time.
yeah,
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 find something fun to talk about when you got a chance.
Yes.
That's
yes,
right.
yeah. And that was hard at first, especially when the kids were little, um, because we I realized early on that I had to get her away from her family
Yes.
to help her to to um, get that detachment away from the family. And
Right.
so, we didn't live in an area where there were any family around. We
But
had some friends that
then we
were,
move here
yeah,
to be around my family, and
yeah, yeah. 10 years later, we moved to Charleston, where her family is, and
Mhm.
um, so it was that was better because we wanted to get out of where we lived. The place I was working at, they they were going under,
yeah,
and
his
so
business is moving to Nevada, and he
yeah,
couldn't convince his boss that he's not going to Nevada.
yeah, that was that
I'm
was a whole
well, I have family in Charleston, so let's go there.
yeah. So, but the through it all, we've had ups and downs. Now, I'm not saying that we've never had arguments. I'm not saying we've ever had problems that we've had to work out. But the key thing is you got to realize that you've got to work it out. Uh,
Right.
in today's disposable society,
Yeah,
they everything is looked at as disposable, and that
Yeah.
includes the most important things in life, like your relationship with your spouse. And
Right.
so people are so willing to just at the drop of a hat, at the most ridiculous things, just
yeah,
They make it so easy.
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. The
Yeah.
court system makes it easy, and
yeah.
so it
But we still want the same thing that we did that many years ago.
yeah,
We still wanted a homestead, and we progressed so much more now. And when you have a homestead, it's not something you could just up and leave. Like, we
yeah,
don't go on vacations
yeah,
because
Right.
the goats need to be milked in the morning and the evening, and the chickens got to be fed, and everyone's got to have water, and the gardens got to need to be watered, and so it's a commitment, and people don't
Right.
understand the value of commitment anymore.
the
That's
key.
right. It ain't like you can go ask your neighbor, "Hey, you mind coming to feed my animals for a few days while I go on vacation?" It's like,
Oh,
no, I got a job.
Doesn't
I've got a
happen.
life.
yeah. Yeah, there was one time when we let the kids stay at my parents' house so that he could take me to Asheville for my birthday. So we hired a veterinarian to take care of the farm, and feed the goats, and
Because they volunteered to do something like that for us,
Oh, okay.
and they
Sure.
were a couple. We had the kids in 4-H, and this couple,
they love
they love
animals.
animals.
She's a
She was a
veterinarian.
veterinarian, and everything like that. And so they said, hey, if y'all need to go for a day or something like that, we can watch your place for you. They just lived
Yeah,
like
I love
5 minutes away, and we were like, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to take her up to Asheville for her birthday,
And that was like
and
something romantic.
yeah, well, most veterinarians, they know dogs, they know cats, they might know parakeets and things like that, but they don't know livestock.
It's totally
No.
They
different.
don't know livestock, and
Mm-mm.
we go and we're there, we're at the hotel and everything like that, and I get this frantic call. Was it like 10 or 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And this woman is freaking out because one of the goats dropped 4 kids.
And that is extremely
4.
rare for goats.
Normal's 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dropped 4 kids. She was just flipping out as
Trying
to what to
scoop
do.
up all these babies.
Yeah.
And it was,
like, we can't handle this. We don't know what to do.
and it was surprisingly cold that night. All the water had frozen over, so she had to take these 4 babies to her house and put them in her bathtub to keep them warm,
Separating them from their mother.
Yeah,
And
it was terrible.
so we, in the middle of the night, we had to throw our clothes on, throw our stuff in our bag, and drive from Asheville to Charleston
As fast as
as fast as
possible.
we could to get back here. And I had to drive over to their house to pick up their babies to take them back to their mom in our barn.
Wow.
Set up all these heat lamps.
Yeah. So it was
Like, well, so much for that. That
But-
was fun.
but you know, we really enjoy living
Yeah.
the way we do, and
Right.
you should make it your goal to make a life that you don't need a vacation from.
Yeah.
Wow. That is so well said right there. I can't. I've got nothing to say against that. Above that. That was
Yeah.
very well put.
I
Right.
wanted to take her to Asheville to take up there to have fun and things like that for a day for her birthday, and but we don't have a need to go on like a cruise
Yeah.
or go down to the Bahamas to the beach. I mean, we live 15 minutes from the beach here, and
Right.
if we wanted to go to the beach for a day, well, heck,
Yes.
we'd load up the truck the night before. The next morning, we'd do morning chores, and then all jump in the truck and head to the beach. You
Right.
know,
Have fun, get sunburned, come back home.
yeah, and so, but we enjoy living here. We can go out behind the house and we can, throw some meat on the grill and see
Yeah.
our chickens out there and see our goats in the pasture.
Yeah, the
And-
COVID lockdowns didn't affect us at all. So
Yeah.
we're already at home.
Yeah.
There you go.
We only go into town once every couple weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, the only thing that changed for us was we stopped our Costco membership because we didn't want to wear a mask in Costco, and so they embarrass us and they were the police are already on their way. It's like this.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so
yeah.
much for Costco.
But that actually worked out because in not going to Costco anymore, we found all these great places that are like restaurant supply stores where we can get
Yeah.
like bulk grains and bulk beans and rice and things like that. And it's like, okay, well, this is
Right.
better than Costco and it's cheaper.
Yeah.
And, but that's the kind of thing that we have found ourselves in, is that as long as we continue in not only growing together, but also growing in Jan, the more we learn about him, the more we study his word, the more that we continue to seek after following his word more closely, the more he gives us in our life. And we have seen a continuous growth throughout our entire time together, that as we have learned more and followed him more closely, then things just continued to expand for us. Like when I finally, after years of seeing it, finally sat down at her goading to sit down and study following the biblical calendar.
Yeah. So you're going to sit here and figure this out and make a decision.
Yeah. And,
I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah.
and
Yeah, this is important. Take some time.
from that
focus.
point on, things have continued to just grow exponentially for us.
Yeah.
we've become more and more free, and more, the rewards that the Yah has brought us have been expanded on for us. And
And we're just grateful every day.
yeah,
It's amazing because when you live this life, you're set up to receive his blessings. He
Right.
gives blessings in bountiful fruit of the land, livestock,
yeah,
not in money, but fiat paper
Who wants
money.
that stuff, huh?
Yeah,
yeah,
It doesn't even make good toilet paper for crying out loud.
that's right.
yeah. But it's
Yeah, it's not worth the paper it's not printed on.
Right.
yeah. See, and blessings are not money. In fact, money is shown to be, a curse and a problem in
Yeah.
Scripture. And but we may not have a lot of money, but it's like we went to a thing not long ago where we were where I was actually giving a talk on things on end times prophecy and such, and so were a bunch of other people there.
Yes.
And as we were driving there, we were talking about the fact that there are lawyers and doctors and retired military people in this that are in this group. There's you know wealthy trust fund people that are in this group,
Yeah,
and
some very wealthy
there's a
people.
lot of very wealthy people that are in this
People
group
who
that we
live on
talked
the
to.
peninsula of Charleston, which
Yeah,
is
yeah, it's the in peninsula of downtown Charleston. The homes down there are literally 10,
yeah,
15, 20, $30 million.
yeah. South of Broad Street's where the billionaires live. North of Broad Street's where the millionaires live.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay. The
this group I was talking to, they were having people come in and talk about different um, denominational views on end times prophecy, and I heard all their different Protestant rhetoric and everything, and
of
rather than
course.
actually going into so much end times prophecy, I redirected and said, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain to you that Scripture says that there are only certain people that are going to be going into the kingdom, and that's these people. And here's what you need to do to be one of those people. And so
Exactly.
I went into explaining how, who the children of the woman in Revelations 12 is, and why the serpent went after her, or went after those children, and how they are the people who keep the commands of Yah and have the testimony of Yeshua. And I
You and I need to have a whole discussion on this topic. This is like
Yeah.
what I've been looking into as well.
yeah,
I mean, to me, this is where it's at. Everything else, yes, it happened in the past. We have a future to look forward to, and I think our future is pretty pretty close.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I was explaining to him also how you know no matter what your preacher tells you, and no matter what some book you read, like the Left Behind series or anything like that says,
Yeah.
I don't care what any of those things says. Scripture says you're going to go through the tribulation.
Yeah, you're not going to be
Yeah.
raptured away before anything bad happens.
You're
Before-
going to go through it. And it's like what Paul said. It says that we will then go into a transformation, but that transformation will happen when? At the last trumpet. When does that last trumpet happen? At the end of the tribulation. And I said, and when it gets to
Yes.
that point, if your preacher is not teaching you that you need to follow the commands of Yahweh, you need to not only have the testimony of Yeshua, but also be keeping the commands that are laid out in the Torah and the prophets. If he's
Right.
teaching you don't need to follow that, he's a false preacher. And I told the whole room
That's
that. and
that's
Yeah,
exactly right.
uh,
I mean, all they have to do is read Revelation 12:17, and then
yeah,
if that doesn't do it for them, what about Revelation 22:14?
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
that,
it
that as
says it
well.
yeah. They
right. I mean, where do they want to start from? I definitely go over it with them.
I
Yeah.
know it's amazing. They're all very well versed in Revelations, the scriptures, uh,
But only
but
from a Protestant standpoint.
yeah, but when
Yeah.
you actually read it from somebody with an open mind, it's totally different. And
Mhm.
like they think that it's okay to have all this wealth in this worldly wealth, and they're going to be fine because they're going to be raptured and don't have to worry about anything else. But like they don't realize that we are wealthier than they are,
Yeah.
because we have goats. They don't even have any chickens. We have about 4 acres of property, which is nothing. A lot of them have 20 or more acres or hundreds of acres, but they don't
I
do
just had
anything.
171 stole from me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's people around here in Charleston that they've inherited or bought an
yeah,
old plantation, and they've got 200 acres,
Yeah.
and they don't even have a garden,
yeah. They
and
don't do
they
anything.
don't even have a goat or a cow or anything. They might, if they have anything, they might have a horse or two.
Yeah, but it's just
But
for riding for
yeah,
fun.
it's pleasure riding,
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
but they have to go to the grocery store every week
yeah,
or more
Well,
often.
yeah, that's their homestead. I mean, that they get
Yeah,
their groceries from the store. Why would they need to grow their own?
yeah,
yeah,
And they probably have a deer out there. They spend hundreds of thousands of
right.
dollars for their big 4x4s and their 4 wheelers and their big high-powered rifles and go kill a deer. And
Yeah, but,
they'll feed a family for a day, maybe two.
yeah.
Um,
uh,
Especially the deer around here. But
yeah, we can cut loose from civilization and be just fine.
yeah,
They can't.
yeah,
and they and
exactly.
the if you take some of the wealthy people that live, south abroad in Charleston, the historic regulations for these historic homes they live in, they have to keep their garden and their yards a certain way, so they can't have chickens
Yes.
uh,
Right, right.
or anything like that. But yet they may have a big bank account, but they have a very small survivability rate.
Yeah. They have
Yep.
no skills.
Yes.
I know between the two of us, we could make make anything. I can make anything out of for art, and he can do anything that's really actually important. That was something else I liked about him, was not only was he hunting and fishing, but he could hunt with the bow, and he would fly fish. It was so
Right.
over what I was actually looking for.
Yeah. Plus, I was in the Navy for 9 years, combat
And,
training,
and
and
I just want to tell you, I respect you for your and thank you for your service, and I respect you for that, brother.
well,
I,
thank you. But that's what really is more important was that I learned how to do things in the Navy that most people didn't, especially going into a combat zone.
right.
That I learned, but then I learned machine skills and mechanics, and I got to be a nuclear certified level A millwright, and then I went on to get my engineering degree after the Navy. So you know, um, and I also dabbled in other academics. I got a degree in European American history, and um,
I have
went
a
to
degree in architecture design,
yeah, and so
but really, I just went to college for an MRS degree. I
Right.
wanted to find a husband.
Well, while we're on the subject of education and different degrees and stuff, would y'all have any advice for someone like today's standards, about whether to homeschool or to put their children through a public school
There's
system.
no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. Homeschool. Okay. Um, Anybody who I always say this:
You have to homeschool.
if you believe in the word of Yahuwah and you say you follow the Bible and send your kids to the public schools, and in many cases, even many of the private schools.
Private schools are just as bad.
Yeah, she
I agree.
went to private schools growing up,
Yeah.
but then anything that happens to your kids at those schools, the things they're exposed to, the things they're taught, and everything like that, that's your fault as a parent.
Amen, brother.
If your kids are being taught to be, transgender or gay or something like that, that's your fault because you sent them there. Because, both of us are libertarian, small L libertarians, not like party libertarians.
Yeah.
But really, what we are is we're Confederates and anti-federalist, and the U.S. government federalized the school system in 1978. Okay, that means that that all the decisions of all the public schools across the country, it doesn't matter what state they're in, is all determined by what happens at the federal government. So all these people that are these conservative people that are wanting to go to the school boards and they're yelling and screaming at the school boards for teaching transgender or they're teaching critical race theory or anything like that, the school board and what actually happens in the schools are very different. The administration and the teachers and the teachers union and the Department of Education absolutely do not give a rip about what the school boards think or say or do.
They sure don't.
So
everybody will say, well, my kids' teachers are wonderful. My kids' teachers love my kid. That may be true, but it doesn't matter. Everybody says that.
Yeah.
That's kind of like, I mean, we can't really put the blame on the teachers themselves, and they're just doing their job.
Yeah.
However, they are humans too, and I say the same thing about cops. They're breaking the law by enforcing policy, but they're just doing their job. But we can't blame the cop themselves. They're human beings, and they don't probably do any homework on their job. They go, they get their paycheck, they go home. And it's the same thing with schools. Children, they go, they get their indoctrination, they go home. They never really think about the things that they actually covered in school, which is all a lie, in my opinion. And one more thing, right quick, to find us out, all you have to do is open the cover of any school book, and when it says Rockefeller in it, that's how we should know. If it says Rockefeller on it, you might as well say, well, this is garbage. Everything in it's a lie. But anyway, go ahead, brother. I'm sorry. Get on a rant.
I would disagree with that about the schools, because in the last 20 years in particular, the schools are hiring activist teachers.
Well, I was not aware of this.
Oh yes, the schools they hire specifically for their social activism. That is a part of their one of the things that when the schools hire on a teacher, they look at what their activism and what their social ideology is. And
it makes perfect sense. Absolutely.
These teachers, they're going to teach the kids, and I mean, right now they're so out about it that they do YouTube videos of it. These teachers get on YouTube and do videos, and they say directly, I'm going to teach kids about the LGBTQ community. Doesn't matter what the parents or the school boards or anybody says. I'm going to teach to them anyway. I'm going to teach them critical race theory anyway, regardless of what anybody else says. And so and because I was raised up before the federalization of the school system,
Okay.
and schools were very different. It was controlled by each individual state, and so things were very, very different back then. And then once that happened, I saw the difference going on into the 80s, how the teachers were becoming activists in what they taught and the social ideology that they taught to kids in the schools.
I think
See,
it's more that the schools are obsolete. The whole school system of where you go to first period class for 55 minutes and you go to second period, the third period, bum bum bum. It was the factory model,
Yeah.
where the factory line, the part gets added here and then the next part, and the understanding that the kid's brain is like an empty vessel that the teacher pours knowledge into, and then they go to the next
right.
place where more knowledge is. That's wrong. And
It's
so
MK Ultra.
like, even
It's
private schools are a mess
Yeah.
because
And
it's
it's
yeah, and
the same thing.
I'm a firm believer in it too. Everything that I found about the indoctrination camps, as I call them, is just
Oh,
nothing but uh like they MK Ultra everybody instead of just specific people that they put in a lab somewhere. It's broadband. It's on your television. It's on the internet. It's in your schools. It's in your church. It's in your government. It's everywhere. It's MK Ultra, and it's just
Yeah.
to keep us docile. And y'all have livestock. What happens when they get rowdy and stuff like that? They go everywhere, right? They're hard to contain because
yeah,
they start to think for themselves, or they get scared or something like that. Well, they don't want us to do that. They want us to stay in line, stay right there and say, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, and go along with what they tell us to do. And that's not what this country's about, man.
yeah.
It,
Yeah,
it,
No,
the,
people think homeschooling is so mysterious, but it's really not, because all you're doing is you're taking your child and showing him what he needs to know to be able to survive in the adult world. There's
yeah,
yeah,
It's not complicated,
yeah,
but they want to confuse everybody and say you can't possibly homeschool your student because your kid because weren't good at math, or it's like, well, I'll figure it out.
there
We'll
there
work through it.
are numerous stories of these parents who decided to homeschool their kids, and they themselves are not what is considered educated today, where they didn't even graduate from school.
no,
And
right,
there's I remember I've read two or three stories about these moms who they didn't they barely got out of grade school, and when they themselves start sitting down and homeschooling their kids, they get an education along with their kids.
Yeah,
And
the
then
actual education.
yes,
yeah,
and then they end up graduating with a high school diploma at the same time as their whole homeschool child does.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
And I had heard about homeschooling because my parents were friends with this missionary family, and my parents supported them pretty much, and so they would go to this jungle somewhere and homeschool their kids, and they were teaching this tribe how to read from the Bible, but it was silly. So I knew I wanted a homeschool, but I was like, I hope I don't have to go to some Amazon forest and in order just to homeschool my kids. So when I met him, I was like, I am adamant I'm going to homeschool my kids. I don't care what anybody says.
and then
And
after that,
he was
right.
willing to defend me.
I told her I wouldn't. If you weren't willing to homeschool, we're going to end this right now.
Yeah.
I told
Yeah.
her that straight up. So that's kind of one of those things that you have to talk about in the process of getting to know the person.
Right. And it sounds like y'all have done quite a bit of research into this topic too. Y'all seem to know quite a bit about it.
We
And
homeschooled both of our kids their entire
Yeah.
lives, and and we've also been advocates. We were members of the Alliance for the Separation of School and State. We were members of um, the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, um, and
Yeah, they're a great organization.
yeah,
Really?
HSL,
Okay, I've never heard of them.
fantastic.
yeah. If anybody you ever know that is homeschooling their kids, I tell them, do what you have to get a membership with the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, because
Okay.
They helped us out. We had family who was taking us to court over that we wanted to homeschool kids, and they thought the kids weren't being educated. So we called HSLDA, and they sent our lawyer the stack of documents.
yeah,
That you have an absolute legal right to homeschool.
yeah, and they will actually send their lawyers to your lawyer,
Yeah, pro bono.
pro bono. And they will co-represent you with your lawyer. And
Wow. That's
and
pretty cool. I'm glad to know about this.
the
Oh,
members
yeah.
the membership for it's like $100 a year.
But
But if you homeschool your kids, it's like legal defense insurance
Yes.
for homeschooling,
Yeah.
because
If you
Okay.
have family members who are going to be a problem like mine were,
or neighbors.
or neighbors,
Yeah.
anything you're worried about, it pays to have a membership with HSLDA, and we had even let our membership lapse for a while, and they still came to our aid.
Yeah.
Because they are attorneys who homeschooled their kids, and so they really pushed to make homeschooling legal everywhere, and they were trying to help the German family who were trying to homeschool their kids in Germany. So they push for it not just
Wow.
in America but worldly too.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. We might have to check them out a little bit and give them some airtime or something. That sounds like an amazing company. Now, there's always two sides to every story, but hey, I'm all for parents raising their own children. If you can't raise your children, don't have children. I mean, that's simple semantics, right? So why would we want to send our children basically to the slaughter? It's Pink Floyd had, well, I forget the name of the song where, but I watched the movie, and it's all the children in the school. They're on this conveyor belt falling off into this meat grind, the wall. That's it.
Well,
And yeah, and it's like, well, that's what they want. They want to
yeah,
undevelop people's critical thinking, and they don't want them to think for themselves. They just want to put them into this meat grinder, so they're all just cattle, cash cattle.
clients, and that is all they want.
That song is the anthem of the homeschooler,
Yes.
because it has
Really?
in there, hey teachers, leave those kids alone.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
and so, and that's another thing about it is that when you're homeschooling, it's like when our son was having problems with certain things in homeschooling, and if she's having frustration with it, I can help take over, and
Yeah.
we can go back and forth, and so both parents are actually involved with the homeschooling, and then homeschooling becomes a part of everything that you're doing. So like with raising livestock, we got the kids involved in 4-H, and
They know how to do everything.
yeah, our kids. I'll give you a perfect example. Some years back, this rather wealthy woman from around here wanted to have some goats, and she wanted to learn about them because she didn't know anything about goats or anything like that. So I said, "Well, come on over, and I'll show you." And it was right about chores time in the evening chores, and so I just had my daughter teach this woman everything that she
How
knew
to
about
milk a
goats.
goat.
And
Caitlin was like 10 to 12. 10.
Yeah.
10. Milking a goat, just, having fun.
Yeah, and then she's showing and so here's this woman. She's in her 60s, and she's showing about how she, this is how you get the feed, and you do this, and she's taking these 150-pound goats and getting the goat into the stall and getting them up on the milk stand, getting their feed, blocking them in, and then sitting down and milking this goat out and everything like that. And this woman, she said, I realized that I'm 63 years old and I can't do anything. And here this 10-year-old girl is coming out here, and she can feed chickens, she can slaughter chickens, she can milk goats, she can feed goats, she can do all this, and I can't do anything. And then Caitlin pops up and says, yeah, and I'm doing it in a dress.
Yeah, Caitlin wears a dress.
That's pretty good.
And so,
and yeah, when you live this life, you cannot shelter your kids. You've got to, as soon as they can, you've got to have them helping feed the animals, slaughter the animals, and
Right.
So they're a part of. They understand death and reproduction without us having to explain it.
There doesn't have to be a class on that one, right?
No,
We can stop wasting people's hour a day for that one.
Yeah, that's right. No need to do a talk on the birds and bees. Just you've seen what the goats do, and that's where babies come from.
I've had, from the time the kids were little, I've had them in there in the stall with me when the goats are giving birth.
Yeah,
they've seen goats give
that
birth.
happen.
My daughter has been there when a chicken is dropping an egg in the nest box. So they've seen chicks hatching out.
She picked up a chicken and the egg fell out.
Oh man.
Well.
Yeah.
I've got a friend that he says, like, I ain't gonna go into the whole story, but like if somebody asks his children what they are, they're gonna say we're a blessing. But that's true.
Yeah.
We've been sort of indoctrinated to think that that's such a bad thing. Don't let children see that, when actually it's something very beautiful. If it hadn't been for Yahweh, that wouldn't have ever taken place. I mean, he says for us to go forth and multiply, and he said that it's very good. So why would we even view that as such a bad thing for children to witness?
And
yeah,
and it builds the character of the kid living this way too, because
they're not snowflakes.
Yeah, they have seen their favorite goat die. They had the goat die in their lap.
Yeah.
They have, my son, he was the first kid in Charleston County to do the beekeeping project for 4-H.
Mm-hmm.
And he got a whole beehive together. He did, got the colony. He raised up the bees, got them to where they were producing and everything like that. Did a whole speech for it at the county fair. And then a few months later, the county came by with a mosquito truck and sprayed our property without our knowledge, killed his hive.
Yeah.
So he saw all that work that he did just disappear. The bees littering the ground in front of his hive.
It's a tragedy. There's tragedies that happen here.
Yeah.
The kids understand that's just part of the cost of being able to live this life.
Yep.
Yeah. That's unfortunate that they killed all those bees, and if it wasn't for the bees, we wouldn't be living either. And they're starting to get more or less of them. They're not necessarily endangered, but our bees are disappearing, and that's not a good thing.
Yeah. And so it's when you look at from the kid's standpoint, my daughter had a goat her first goat that she had that was hers,
Yeah, she loved it.
and oh yeah, and you know, the goat got hold of some mistletoe that fell off of one of the oak trees, and that stuff's highly toxic, and it killed that goat.
Hmm.
And
You know,
she had to deal with that,
Yeah.
and she's had to we've had to deal with a goat that drops kids early, and then all the kids die, and the kids had to see all the baby goats die from this goat, and
right.
oh
That used to upset my mother so much,
oh yeah
so much that we're uh, damaging the kids by letting them see this thing. Like, no, they understand that
yeah
they're not fragile unless you make them fragile.
yeah
We're having,
They think that we're supposed to shelter our children
right,
up until they're 18 years old and then just toss them out into the world as if, okay, goodbye.
yeah
And
well
then
that
now that child has no idea how to live.
right,
no
In a
exactly.
year's time, they're going to be moving back in with their parents.
yeah
Yeah,
yeah and so that's that from beginning to end, the we have looked at our ultimate goal was to be able to raise our kids this way, and now our kids, I mean our son, he started a new job with a new company a year ago, and no, not even a year ago,
no, listen
eight
here.
months ago, back in January, and he started with this new company, and he just got an evaluation there the other day, and they talked about how fantastic of a
Yeah,
worker he is. And here he is. He's 24 years old, and most 24-year-olds I've known are just some of the worst workers that you could ever meet. And
Same here.
and so you know every place he's gone to that he's worked at, they said, I wish I had 5 or 6 more
yeah.
of him.
Yeah,
And
even at his first job before college was at the Red Top Feed store. We told him every time you get a chance, start sweeping up or clean the bathroom or make yourself useful. And so
Right.
he did. He was the best employee, and all the other guys at the feed store would sit every chance they got and look at their porn on their phones. So
yeah,
yeah, he always made a difference.
and it's
Yeah.
because of how we raised him. You know, you
Yeah,
get up in the morning and you go do chores, and you have lives that are your responsibility, lives of these animals, and
Right.
we get up and we go do chores before we have breakfast. You see, so the kids are out there milking the goats. They're letting the goats out. They're letting the chickens out. They're feeding the chickens. And they're getting water for everybody, so that all those animals get fed before we do.
Right.
And that builds that work ethic in the kids.
Right.
And so that's reflected in him. And it just, like I said, every place he goes to that he's working at, they say, I wish I had a half a dozen more of you.
Right.
So that comes out through what we're doing here. And so we know that when we're old and we can't do any of this anymore, and not that we're not already old, but
speak for yourself.
but we know that the kids are going to be able to continue doing this. So
And
this
they'll,
is something
yeah,
that we
Right.
can hand down to the kids that they can also do with their kids.
'cause they talk about how they understand the lifestyle. They know that we live differently than most people, and they see it, and they see. We talk with them all the time. We tell them why we have made the decisions that we've done, why why we tried to discourage electronic toys when they're little, and tried to have just non-electronic toys, and try to have board games instead of computer games, and you know
Right.
you have to make decisions about everything, and we talk with them and say these are the reasons why, and these are the consequences we see to if we choose differently, and they understand because we want them to pass this down to their children, and that's the continuity.
And we expect responsibility out of the kids from as early as we could. We had them doing things like washing dishes, doing their own laundry, um, and helping to clean the house,
Yeah.
and you know everything like that. Everything that we would do, they do, and we
Right.
do it right along with them. And um, that we've had family members that just have been aghast that we had our 5 and 7 year old kids like doing their own laundry.
Yeah.
It's like, how could
Yeah.
you possibly be doing that? You're going to be damaging those
Yeah.
kids. No.
And my brothers didn't make their beds.
I don't make mine either. I don't see the point. I'm like, why make the bed up if I'm just gonna? I'm not gonna be in it all day long. The next
Yeah,
time I'm gonna
but
be
you're
in it, I'm gonna be messing it back up. So
Yeah, but you're single, so
right. But I mean,
Anyway.
I never did do it even when I was married. Which
One time
I did want to say one thing right quick about the computer stuff. Our
Yeah.
children having games and stuff like that. I agree with that, but I also think that in this time and in this era or whatever, everything is run by computers. So
Oh, yeah.
I do think that we should, give our children the opportunity to get to learn that so they can sort of get used to making it in the world. But again, they don't need to sit there and play a PlayStation 12 hours a day or something like
Right.
that. It's not gonna help them.
yeah,
Oh yeah, they each have their computers and they have email accounts.
they're very computer savvy,
Yes.
Yeah,
but
you just about have to be these days. I wish I was.
Yeah, but kids should know that there's other things you can do, like read books.
yeah,
Don't have the Kindle. You don't
Yeah.
have an actual physical book. You
we,
Right,
we,
have
right.
to read.
we actually have a huge library
Yes.
of books, actual physical books, and that was one of the things that when she and I met,
Yeah.
we found
When we
that-
combined our libraries.
that we had all these duplicates. Well, which
Wow.
one's yours? This one's mine. Is that one yours? Yeah, that one's mine.
Mine was the cleaner one.
yeah. So we had to take a good probably about a third or more of the books that we had duplicate of all of our books. And I mean, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 6, and then this one, and then that one.
Yeah.
One. We got a bookcase right here. We got another bookcase right here. Got another bookcase over there. And
Storage.
then there's 4 3-foot by 6-foot
Yeah.
bookshelves in our parlor full of books. And
And we had all these boxes of books in storage from our previous move. And our son Tyler, there was one book he wanted to find that he knew we had. Just a matter of finding it. So I said, okay, if we're gonna go through all the books, we have to commit to going through all the books. We can't.
Oh
stop
wow.
yeah, we had
so it took about 2 days for us. We set up a table and he would bring out a box and we'd look through the box and organize the books and put them in a new box.
and that's just the books we have in storage.
Yeah. And the second to last box, he finally found the one book he was looking for.
Yeah.
Well, definitely hang on to them because I've got some kind of pretty concrete evidence or whatever you want to call it that the states are actually destroying books right now,
Oh yeah.
and they will not let the people buy them. They won't let them get them. They're physically destroying them, and all the libraries in my state has to round up all these books and send them to the central office, and they will destroy them. And I said, I want the books. Can't give them to you. Can't give them away. Well, we I got a few questions I'd like to ask y'all, if
Go ahead.
that's okay,
Yeah.
and kind of getting back to the like social media dating and what people should kind of keep in mind when if they're going to do something like that. I know there's lots of people out there just say, nope, not me, never. But there are people that are going to do some things like that. I see it quite a bit. But I got 5 questions, and I kind of want to ask all my guests these questions. Some of them we probably have already talked about a little bit, and but I'm gonna read the question, and if you think of something you might want to, like, some good advice, or any kind of advice for others that might watch. It says, would you say that social media, as far as actually meeting others, on it, has been a more wholesome type of interaction, or do you generally seem, or do they generally seem off, or possibly even dangerous? So in other words, do you think it's safer to meet someone online, or do you think it's safer to go out in public and like to a bar or movies, or well, maybe not movies, but where would you meet people, in general? And I know y'all's story was in
You
a
get a
magazine. I think
subscription
that
to
was an
Backwoods
excellent
Home.
idea.
You get a subscription to Backwoods Home, and then you put an ad in.
I think it's trying to think of where a person that you're looking for would be. It's hard because we're going through that with our kids. They want to marry, but I don't know how. How do you find help them find somebody that would make a good spouse for them? It's hard. Social media, I think, has made it more difficult.
I think most of social media is actually very harmful to that. And part of the main reason for that being is because things like TikTok and Twitter and everything like that, and Instagram and all that's it's instantaneous, and then it's gone.
Yeah.
So there's no possibility for you to actually interact with somebody.
Yeah.
Facebook is a little bit different because on there you can post something and comment about it, and then other people can comment about it, and you can find groups on Facebook that have similar interests to you. There's Torah observant homesteading groups on Facebook. There's a bunch. There's 2 Torah observant homesteading groups just for South Carolina that I know of right now. There's probably more.
There's quite a few over there in that area. I know quite a few people in North and South, mainly South Carolina, I think. I know quite a few people that's been moving in that area, and you're right. It's homesteads everywhere.
Yeah, and there's a few Torah observant singles groups on Facebook as well.
I think stay away from things like TikTok that force you to be so narcissistic.
Yeah.
And that narcissistic people are the ones who get the most likes or attention. Yeah. And when you're looking for a spouse, especially if you plan on having a family, then narcissism has to go out the window. Yeah. Because if you are going to have a family, it's not about you anymore.
Yeah.
It has to be about the kids and the family.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like those answers, and I think they're very helpful for if somebody will actually heed the warning and listen to y'all's advice. I think they're pretty good. What are some of the possibilities? Oh, sorry, can't read this morning. Y'all got me up too early. What are some of the possible telltale signs would you say to look for in a person that you may be considering actually meeting in person? How are how how are some ways that we can tell if they are indeed a genuine person? Like,
Well,
how do we know
I
who
would
we're
say,
actually talking to is actually the person we think we're talking to? In other words,
well,
Yeah.
one of the well, see, that's always hard online, and it's, to be honest, it's also hard in real life sometimes. But
I agree.
the I think the big thing is to, um, you have to treat this relationship, even though you are not in a courtship or dating or anything like that, that interaction that you're having with this person, you have to treat it as the possibility of, I could be spending the rest of my life with this person, or I could get involved with this person that can end in horrible tragedy.
Yeah.
Well, I would like it to be the first and not the latter. So
You gotta
you
talk about
you have to
everything.
talk about
Every-
everything. You cannot talk about shallow surface things, about, how you like to have your hair done, or what kind of clothes you like to wear, or, oh, don't you think this movie was great? Oh, don't you like this TV show? You got to get over all that. Just drop it. Don't even talk about all that kind of nonsense. You
Right.
got to get down to the nitty gritty from the get go,
Yeah.
because, to be honest, if you are not talking about the important issues from the very start, then you are starting off that relationship under false pretenses.
Yeah.
Okay? You have to, from the get go, say, I like this person. This person's, handsome or pretty or whatever you're thinking, and I like their personality. I would like to get to know them better. Okay? Well, if you'd like to get to know them better, that means getting to know them more than how they like their coffee from Starbucks. You got to get
Right.
to know what their values are,
And
what
I
their
think hearing about their family too. You gotta ask. You gotta be honest about the way your family is, and you gotta ask about the other person's family.
yeah,
Because when you marry, you're merging families, and there's all kinds of dynamics and
yeah,
trouble you need to know about ahead of
yeah,
time.
That's right. That's
We found out.
yeah. So yeah, you basically your time spent together should not be, spending it watching TV. In fact, I would say, if
Yeah.
you when you start out in a relationship, get rid of TV. Don't even have it. Don't
I
even
say
use it.
do that just anyway.
Yeah.
If single, married, and just throw your TV out.
Yeah, I mean,
Take a sledgehammer to it.
our kids, we've never had TV.
Well, yeah, we don't
we
have
we have
cable.
a TV, but we only use it
Like,
for like watching DVDs or whatever. Um, but you know, don't have TV in the household, and spend your time with this person in a way that you can actually talk in reality. What what do you want in life? What are your life goals? What are your what kind of things do you want?
mhm.
Like, for instance, she and I started talking, and we talked right from the get-go because of this magazine. We wanted to homestead, and and I said, well, for a small homestead, uh, what's better is to get goats rather than cattle.
Oh, I
Because,
like
and
goats.
then
I
she
said
was
I
just
want
like, yeah,
Nubians.
I want goats. I want the ones with the big floppy ears.
Yeah, I
Oh
like
yeah,
a
you want
Nubian
Nubians?
goat.
Those are the ones I
Yeah, I
see.
already told you I wanted Nubians.
Yeah, and so right there from the get go, you know, we were finding out about
Yeah,
each other's wants for their life and their future.
yeah, getting down to
And
the specifics.
yeah,
Not just I want goats. What kind of goats?
yeah, if you
Right.
if you want to live, how far out in the country do you want to live? Because that matters.
Yeah,
Some
Yeah.
people want to live in such a way that they are so cut off that you know you could drive for an hour and not see another person going into town.
yeah.
Uh,
That
Right.
that sound great when you're single, but then when you have kids and you're getting cabin fever and driving you crazy, and like I gotta go to Chuck E. Cheese. I gotta get
Yeah,
do
you
something
know,
because I tell people the best thing about homeschooling is your kids are always with you. But the worst thing about homeschooling is your kids are always with you.
yeah. So
You gotta think of other things to do.
yeah,
Right.
and you always gotta make sure that that you understand with each other that you are gonna you know what you even got to talk about is how you're gonna argue.
Yeah,
You
I
gotta
think.
you gotta understand that in every marriage you're gonna have arguments.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Right.
think it'd be good to have a good, honest argument before you marry, so that you can understand. Because the worst things about us come out when we're arguing. So you got to see the worst side of a person before
Right.
you marry,
Yeah.
and then to see if y'all can stick to, yeah, like I said, your guidelines on how to argue, or
Yeah.
how each violates it. Because when you're arguing with someone, you try to pick on their most sensitive spot, and they try to do the same to you, and so just so much. Um, yeah, I
The
guess the
whole
yeah
dynamic.
the real truth comes out in an
Yeah.
argument.
Right.
Yeah. And you have to, and you know, and that doesn't mean that if you two sit down and you say that well, we're going to have these guidelines, and that doesn't mean you're not going to break those guidelines.
Oh yeah,
Okay, because you're probably going to. But what matters is that you realize that okay, we broke these guidelines, but that doesn't mean I don't love
yeah,
Right.
you. You
and
know,
to see how you can come back from that.
yeah.
And did the problem that started the argument really get resolved, or is it something that you just plastered over and that's going to come back again? Because you've got to really resolve things. That's something we found out too. Is if you say, "All right, we just can't talk about this anymore," no, that doesn't do it.
Yeah.
It's gonna
Right.
come back. If it's
Yeah.
something that upset you at one time, it's going to upset you again. And so you've got to sit down and go, how can we resolve this so that it doesn't come back in the future?
Yeah. And
That
and
makes sense. That makes sense.
and you also have to quickly recognize whether or not that what is causing that strife or that tension between you, is it from between the two of you, or is it from something outside?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
is it money? Is it the job situation? Is it a family member causing a problem? Is it, what is it? Maybe it's, that, I said something to her in such a way that uh, uh, made her feel like I was talking down to her or something like that. And I don't realize that. And she says to me, "You made me. You're talking down to me. Why are you doing that?" And I was like, "I didn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to talk down to you. I'm sorry. I apologize."
Yeah.
You
Right.
A
you.
lot was miscommunications
Yeah.
between us. And so I learned that I had to remember his exact words so that I could say, your words to me were this, 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 this.
Yeah.
And and you see how I took that to mean this.
Yeah.
And so, what were you intending by you
Yeah.
saying that?
Right.
Yeah. So and so that's what the kind of things you have to talk about before you ever start a courtship.
Yeah,
You have to be sitting down and talking about the nitty gritty of things from the get go, and and talking about your wants, your desires, your beliefs, um, what you think about what things in Scripture say, what you think about how you need to live your life to conform to Scripture. That's a
Right.
big subject that most
yeah,
people don't talk about. How do we need
Almost
to
never.
live life
almost nobody does. You're right.
Oh
to
yeah.
conform to Scripture. Because
Yeah.
oh, back where we lived at before, I used to be going into work, and I would hear this evangelical Protestant church talking about how, we're gonna have you come in, and you're gonna find out how the Bible will fit into your life and lifestyle.
Uh-oh.
And that used to make
Oh,
my hair out. No, we're supposed to conform our
Yeah.
life and lifestyle
That or
to the
that.
Bible.
exactly. Why do so many people miss that? It says it from Genesis to Revelation. You know,
Yeah, but that's something that you need to have a conversation with the person that you are looking as a potential spouse for you. You know, this is I
Yeah.
think that based on what we see in Scripture, this is how we need to live our life. And
being willing to make sacrifices.
yeah,
So you've got to be able to say, look, I like going to Panera Bread, but when the going gets tough, I'm willing to not do that. I'm willing to go without bread for as long as it takes, even though I love the bagels. So if that's the sacrifice it takes, and because things will get tough.
yeah,
There was one winter, the winter our daughter was born, and
oh, yeah.
he had lost his job. We were completely out of money, and he had to beg for propane so that we could heat our house and not freeze that winter.
Yeah.
It was. It
I wasn't
got
really
bad.
wasn't really begging so much as I was trying to negotiate a way to
You
get
don't
some
have money
propane,
for propane.
so I can get some propane and then pay them back later. And then Yob worked on the heart of that guy that owned the propane company, and he gave us a tank full of propane.
Yeah, and then we
Just
paid
gave
him
it to us.
back.
man.
Got money again when he got a job
Yeah,
again. And,
he didn't
Yeah.
expect us to pay it back, but I
But
paid him back later on when
Yeah.
my next job came along. But
Right.
I think
It's amazing that there's still people out there that do things like that. I gotta admit, I mean, there few, there are few and far in between, but
Oh yeah.
it's pretty seldom, and for people to just out of trust and out of the goodness of their heart do things like that for others, it almost brings tears to my eyes because I wish everybody was like that, and if everybody was, there would be no problems in this world. I
yeah,
mean, but how are we gonna change that, right?
Yeah.
Um,
yeah. Well, it's
You
it's
got
it's how a lot of people are raising their kids now. Though. They're not raising their kids with Scripture. They're not raising their kids with even a real understanding. Even parents that are raising their kids in these churches are not teaching their kids anything about what's in the Bible.
Yeah.
they're
And
teaching them inversions because they've been taught inversions. They're teaching
yeah,
how they've been taught.
they're not even teaching them that most of the time. They're just taking their kids to church and expecting the kid to get all this information by osmosis or something.
Yeah, I would. But my parents would have us go to Sunday school every Sunday before the sermon started. So they expected us to learn everything we need to know about the Bible from Sunday school because they didn't want to talk about it. But I was doing my own reading of Scripture, which they didn't like, and well, so I would my parents and my grandparents they they like to invite the pastor over for lunch Sundays, and so I was like, oh goody, here's my opportunity. These are my questions that I wanted to ask, and and it would embarrass my parents, but they it was the only way to really learn anything. You have to get past this is what the church wants you to know, and find out um, what what else is in Scripture because there's a lot more.
Yeah. Did we lose you?
Yes, sir. Y'all did lose me, and I apologize for that. As many people that do watch these shows, they know that my internet likes to shut down right in the middle of live streams and things. So anyway, yes, I did lose connection. I apologize for that, and hope y'all are enjoying so far. I know I was. I was very intrigued with these folks' story, and I thought they were extremely good people. It was a pleasure meeting them, and I hope y'all think the same. Much love, and please enjoy the video.
Yeah, I said that I'm a Confederate and an anti-federalist. And I said I'm a Confederate because the South is a separate culture from the rest of the U.S. Most of the time, that culture causes division between Southerners and people from the rest of the U.S. I saw this especially when I spent 9 years in the U.S. Navy. The South legally seceded from the U.S. in the 1860s, and then the Lincoln administration provoked the South to take action, firing on Fort Sumter, which culminated in the U.S. occupation of the South. Since that time, the rest of the U.S. has made a culture war on Southerners to eliminate our culture and history that continues to this day. I am an anti-federalist, as many of the founding Southern fathers were, like Thomas Jefferson and Patrick Henry. The U.S. Constitution, while a good document, was not written well enough to protect the citizenry from the encroachment of an authoritarian state that the Federalists wanted. And the Anti-Federalists brought forward the Bill of Rights to keep the Federalists from encroaching on the freedoms of the citizens. The Federalists, since that time, have been doing everything they can do to chip away at the Bill of Rights ever since. Federalism is a form of socialism, not the way Marx or Lenin had socialism, but still socialism. It is based on the idea that the strong controlling federal government controls how the country is run and operates and makes the individual states subservient to the federal government. This goes against the 10th Amendment of the Bill of Rights. So, well, we hear you now.
Oh, you can hear me?
I can hear you, but we can't see you. We got your logo there. There you are.
Yeah, right.
All right. I am so sorry about that.
No problem. It's
we lose
technology
all the time.
And this is the very reason why you shouldn't rely on technology,
Yeah.
not only for anything, but especially if you're trying to look for a spouse, because that technology will always fail you.
That's right.
So
You're exactly right. Now, I think I might could cut that section out where it give up on me like that, but if not, I do appreciate y'all doing some reading and sort of carrying on. I might should have let y'all know to begin with. My internet messes up on me sometimes when I'm using StreamYard and OBS, and this time both of them shut down. Also, my phone data shut down.
Oh no!
Everything, nothing was working. Nothing.
It's a conspiracy.
I think so. I really do think so, because back when I didn't have internet on Discord, we would just be discussing the Bible or something, and everybody used to say every time Anthony has something good to say, he starts roboting. And in other words, it cuts my voice out, it cuts everything out where it's really hard to hear and stuff. But it's like they say every time he's got something important to say, he starts roboting. If he's just talking normally, it's perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that happens. Well, we were just saying to each other, we've got, we've been together for so long, and we have so many stories. We tend to go off on other tangents on things. So go ahead and go through the rest of your questions that you have.
We'll try to do better.
All right. Yeah, the next one, and I think y'all might have just been talking about it when I was able to get back on. It says, oftentimes on social media, the person is a rather long distance away from us. How far should a person go in order to actually meet the other person? And should it be like a half and half thing where you like meet in the middle? I know y'all had started at the beginning. You said one of you was on the West Coast, the other on the East Coast, and that's a pretty fair distance.
We were almost as far across the United States as you could get from each other. She was living in Greenville, South Carolina at the time, and at the time I was living in Washington State at the time, and
Uh-huh.
so
I wanted to get away, so I said I'd go meet him.
yeah,
So I flew across the country to meet
yeah,
him.
yeah, she came out there, met me, and
It was
I
funny because clearly I did not dress for the weather.
oh, yeah.
I didn't understand what he meant by cold.
Yeah, I said, yeah, it's going to be cold here. It's not like it is in the South. It's going to
Right.
be cold, so you got to dress for the weather.
Everybody says that. He didn't really mean it.
She came there in sandals and a
It's
sundress,
freezing.
and it was literally snowing on the ground outside.
Oh wow.
So I of course had to give her my coat, and
And he had candy in his pockets, so I put my hands in the pockets to keep warm. Like, oh, what is this? Yummy!
Yeah,
His pockets are full
see,
of candy.
I one of the things I used to do is I was a design engineer for the food industry, and so I designed a lot of food processing and packaging systems. And one of the places I did was this company called Almond Roca, and they make these little toffee candies that are covered with chocolate and rolled in almonds.
So they had these barrels full of the rejects, and he just
Oh,
grabbed and stuffed them in his pocket.
Yeah, so I put this coat on her, and I totally forgot those things are in there. And then she finds them, and she's like,
Oh,
"Oh, he's a guy, and he keeps candy in his pocket."
I like this first date.
well, y'all giving me an idea now. Maybe I need to keep some Werther's originals around me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, these things were, imagine a Werther's original covered in chocolate and rolled in almonds.
Yeah.
That's what an almond roca is.
Yeah, it's making my mouth water just thinking about it.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, and so the it really depends. You know, young people, they might not have the occupations that we had at the time to be able to afford to fly back and forth like that.
Right.
You know, she flew out there, I flew out to Greenville. You know, we went back and forth like that a few times, and then my situation, the company I was working for, you know, I was needing to leave there. That project was done, so rather than move on to another project, I just said, okay, well, I'll just up and leave, and I drove across the country to Greenville. I wanted to get back to the South anyway.
It was funny. He drove for 3 days straight to cross the country.
Yeah, in winter.
In the middle of winter. And that night, I was head of the Greenville County Libertarian Party, the chairs, and I was having an event where I had all these speakers coming to speak on different subjects, but my gun expert that I had lined up, he got stage fright. So I was like, oh no, I need someone to get up there and talk about guns. And Johnny had just gotten there just like half an hour before after driving 3 days straight. And so I said, you need to get up there and talk about guns because I suddenly lost my speaker. So
Yeah.
Wow.
gets him on stage and with this big audience, and his chin was itchy from not taking a shower that long, so he was stroking his beard the whole time.
Yeah, I was trying to itch my chin because my beard was itching,
But he looked very
so
wise.
I just kept on trying to do this while I was talking. We've had a lot of crazy things happen.
Yes, but we learned to just roll with it.
You know that.
Yeah, how do you roll with it when this girl you're moving across the country to meet up with, and she says to you, "You gotta help me. You have to come and do this for me."
I don't know what I was doing organizing this, but
Well, I mean that's jumping right on into it, but it sounds like y'all did your homework on each other beforehand, though, right? I mean, y'all were. I guess kind of expected to help each other out in cases like that at that point. But that's pretty amazing.
we talked every day, email and phone for about a year before we really committed. Okay, we're married.
Yeah. And so then, we had an apartment in Greenville. We had a house in Greenville, and then we've had to we've had to go. We've driven across the country
So many times.
like 6 times. I had a job out in Washington again. Then had a job in New Hampshire, and then came back, did a short job in North Carolina. And I mean, yeah, I have put so many miles on my truck.
But it's the same truck.
Yeah, had the same truck for
2000.
24 years.
Oh,
Wow.
Ford Excursion.
Yeah, 2000 Ford Excursion.
Yeah.
Can't beat them Fords, can you?
No.
Yeah. The truck is the way to go.
Yeah.
My friend Chris is gonna love this video. He's a Chevy man, which I ain't gonna lie, you're gonna have your good ones and bad ones and all of them. But I have had terrible luck out of GM, and I've had really good luck out of Ford. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
We drove across the country one time with a boat on the back of my truck, and we decided we had decided we were going to go to Dave.
Want to see Daniel Boone's
Boone's
house.
house.
And so we're going on these mountain roads with pulling this sailboat. Everyone's looking at us funny, like
there's no ocean
there's
around
no.
here. And I mean, we're going through these little one-lane road residential areas to go to this historic site because we're both history buffs. And we're driving down this windy road going through residential areas, and I'm just thinking, man, what if we get there and there's this little teeny tiny parking spot and I can't even turn around with this stupid boat on the back of this truck.
So we get.
I've been in situations like that. I went up through Oklahoma one time with a Peterbilt, with a 379 Peterbilt, with a 53-foot long cattle trailer on it in winding mountain roads like that, thinking I was taking a shortcut.
Yeah.
Look, luckily they had really wide shoulders on the road because I would have to get completely on the left-hand shoulder just to keep my trailer from falling off the mountain.
Yeah.
That's exactly
It
what
was
we did.
essentially the same thing. We got to where the Daniel Boone's house location. Luckily, they had a nice wide parking lot.
So
I was like, oh, thanks.
So he drove around the entire parking lot to turn around and point in the right direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've taken our kids to all kinds of historic sites, and
I love forts. I'm a fort enthusiast. So, all these forts we have, I didn't even realize that I like, putting our kids next to cannons. So I'm going through all our photos one day and I say, I have all these pictures of our kids next to cannons.
You're right. Hey, have y'all looked into the star forts across all over this country?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
We might have to talk about what y'all's thoughts on those are sometime or another.
Oh, they're
Vauban and Montalembert forts.
Yeah, they're not just all across the U.S. They're everywhere.
Oh, right, I know.
And
all over the world.
My my great grandfather was a general in the Confederate Army, and he designed forts. He was an engineer for the Confederate Army in forts, and so she's an architecture student.
Yeah, I went to architecture thinking I love castles and forts, but I can't be an architect because nobody wants me to design a castle or a fort for them. So.
Yeah, who builds them things anymore?
Yeah. That's all I wanted to design.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
That's but as far as meeting up, I think that you can utilize the internet like what we're doing now as a way to directly interact with the other person. You can have like an online date, where you can sit and talk about things. You can show each other things in the camera, and you can do things like that. But
Right.
the thing that is lacking, the thing that is sorely lacking in marriage, whether among believers or even people who aren't believers, is communication, because
Yeah.
they don't talk to each other before they get married. I mean,
And honesty is so important. And
Yeah.
you just can't have a relationship without honesty. And a lot of people are so afraid that the other person's going to find out what they're really like.
yeah,
That you just got to be honest and say, this is who I am.
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
and you have to realize that you have to be honest to the point with this person, that you have to be honest with yourself too. um, you know it's unfortunate, but this is a bigger problem with women today than it is for men, because women are told time and time
Yeah.
again, they're told all throughout their life growing up, you have to hide who you are. You have to
Really.
Get lots of makeup on.
lots of
and-
makeup, lots of
Yeah.
the clothes and everything like that, and doing your hair up and everything like. But I don't know how familiar you are with the Book of Enoch, but
A little bit.
Enoch, it directly says in there that the fallen angels gave women the knowledge of doing makeup and things like that to hide
That's
their
right.
appearance. And so,
And what these transgender men do, that's not possible without makeup. So
yeah,
that's another
Yeah.
part of hiding who you really are.
yeah.
Well,
so,
they even have apps now. Well, I don't know if it's an app per se, but it's something that you can use, like even on live video, to alter the way you look, and it's all AI. It does it for you.
AI, yeah,
And I watch some of these videos. It's like, wow, this woman's very attractive, but she's saying the whole time, she's like, no, I'm not attractive or nothing, which she ended up being anyway. But she wasn't as attractive, I guess, as far as what Hollywood or something wants
Yeah.
people to think a woman's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
And I could not tell that was an AI thing. I could not tell. I watched the video several times, and until and when she turned the little filter off, it was way different. It's like, she wasn't unattractive,
Yeah.
but she didn't look like that AI. That looked like a movie star or something, right?
all,
But
all you can do is just go into YouTube and type in the search bar the power of makeup. Just type
I
that in
had
the
to check
search
that
bar,
out.
type it, and you will see countless videos of these women that they're doing a whole makeup thing, and they completely transform themselves to where you get a 60-year-old woman and she comes out looking like a 20-year-old girl,
Yeah,
and has all the makeup done and everything like that. And there's a reason why that came from the fallen angels like that.
yeah,
Women are told to hide themselves so much more. Men are told to just be closed off. And
don't share your emotions.
yeah, whereas women are taught to hide. And so, that's and that's all a part of it. And so, what you got to do is that if you're going to be serious about a relationship, you have to be serious about yourself too. You have to take
I
yourself
agree.
seriously, so that you realize that, okay, I'm going to share something with this person that I don't share with my parents or my siblings or my best friend.
Because it's going
Right.
to come out.
Yeah.
You're married to someone long enough, it all comes out.
Yeah. Plus,
You gotta-
this person that you are potentially marrying has to be your absolute all-time best friend.
Yeah.
Right.
And that has to be the ultimate apex of intimacy. There is that you let everything out for this person. You tell them everything. Tell them stuff you don't tell your best friend, you don't tell your mom, you don't tell your brother or your sister.
Right.
You will tell that person.
And if you don't, it's going to end up in a fight later down the road because y'all are right. Eventually, it's coming out. No
Yeah.
matter
Yep.
what it is, eventually it's going to be.
Hang on, I'm getting a phone call.
All right, brother.
Sorry about this.
Oh, that's okay. I
Hey Tyler, what's up?
I like that ringtone.
Yeah, it's very loud.
No.
I can't even hear my phone anymore.
All right.
Oh, no.
Love you, bye. That was our son.
He does this side business of going to like Goodwill or yard sales and buying junk and then selling it on eBay and he makes pretty good profit.
Yeah.
He's learned a lot to look for and what's quality and what's junk.
Yeah. So that's
Well,
what-
tell him if he finds if anybody's selling any linen garments, and it doesn't really matter what it is. I know several people that take linen, they make their own clothes and stuff like that. It's the Nathan and Chelsea Reynolds, the Linen
Yep.
Railroad. They're really good, and my friend Kelly, she makes things out of linen. They got 5 children too, so they kind of make a lot of their clothes for their babies and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
So I could probably move some linen for him. It's a possibility.
Yeah.
I found I have to sew too to make my own clothes because you can't find skirts in the mall.
or modest
Right.
clothing. Yeah.
And then all the mixed material, they mix
Right.
wool with linen and all that stuff, and that's an abomination. So even our clothes today are hard to find.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. To be honest, where you can find some good shirts where they're all cotton is Tractor Supply.
Tractor Supply. He does
Tractor Supply, okay.
Yeah.
Tractor Supply.
What-
Tractor Supply, you can go in there and you get shirts, nice button-up shirts like this. You get the Carhartt T-shirts and things like that.
Right.
They're all cotton.
Sorry,
So,
we should get back.
Tractor Supply, the Walmart for men, huh?
but yeah, that's the biggest thing is you have to communicate. You have to be willing to discuss every possible thing. What is the thing that annoys you the most about other people? Okay, that's a question that you need to ask each other. What are the things that you like the most in other people?
Yeah.
What are your expectations for you to be a wife, or you to be a husband, or for a husband and for a wife?
Yeah, I think that's what kills most relationships is they're not honest and they're just too shallow.
Yeah,
narcissistic, and you have to rise above all that.
Because you can't marry somebody just because they're cool.
Right.
I like having sex with them.
Yeah, and really that right there is the thing that most people get married for.
I know it.
They think that you get married is because you had good sex with this person.
Yeah.
Well, that's
the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes. That's right. And you mentioned that
they're divorced in a couple years.
Yeah. And you mentioned in Enoch how the fallen angels taught women to color their eyes and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's being used today. And we brought up Hollywood a while ago. Like Hollywood paints this picture of this is what a woman's supposed to look like. No, it's not. That's what a chick looks like. Okay, that's not a woman. That woman probably don't even know how to boil an egg, probably. But the thing is, they pump that into society and they make everybody think, well, this is the way it's supposed to be, and it's all indoctrination. It's what's on the inside that counts, men and women.
Yeah,
and we have to look past the worldly flesh desires and stuff.
It's unfortunate that among women today, they are taught to take pride in being a whore.
Yeah.
And
I
know that's Language.
I know people don't want to hear that, but that's the truth. That's
True.
really how they're taught by society
And
and most parents.
yeah, and men too. You have, these guys that are going around making whores out of those women,
Yeah.
and that makes them just as bad.
On,
And
if not worse. If
yeah,
not worse.
so this is the kind of thing that ruins people, because that should be a goal for marriage, and they're
Yeah, that's one of the purposes for delaying um, being intimate is so that you don't put that first.
yeah,
Right.
and
It's
then
gotta you gotta hammer out everything else before you get to that.
yeah, and then
Right.
and if you don't, if you're trying to get all the benefits of marriage without having that real true level of intimacy, then it's doomed to failure.
Yeah, like my great grandmother always said, if a man can get the milk for free, he's not gonna buy the cow.
Yeah,
I've heard that a time or two, and it's true.
yeah.
It is true.
So
Well, let's about the next question. It says, "Do you go alone?" And the last question we have kind of covered a little bit, but what is some advice or some ideas that people might want to keep in their mind, like the first time they are fixing to travel across the country to meet somebody? Like, do you go by yourself? And in my opinion, I think we should let several people know where we're going, what we're doing. Let us know. Let somebody know, just in case something happens. And I think that should go for men and women, because we truly don't know who is on the other end of that internet signal until we see them, stuff like that. And then honestly, we truly don't know at that point either.
yeah,
You know,
Yeah,
yeah, that's especially big for women. And
yeah. I was pretty naive, and I didn't think too much about my own safety. So, but yeah,
yeah,
for our own kids, yeah, I would not recommend our daughter do what I did.
yeah, but
right,
fortunately for her, she and I talked enough that we knew each other pretty well. Because if
Yeah,
you talk enough, then if that person has some kind of ill intention, it's going to come out. They're going to be putting pressure on you to come.
right,
And
yeah,
so, and then the second time that she and I met up, I took her to a shooting range and taught her how to shoot and how to carry a gun
yeah,
and everything like that. And so, that right there is a big thing, because there isn't anything more empowering for a woman in a
yeah,
society with men in it than for her to be able to carry a gun and be able to shoot it.
yeah,
right.
So,
And I 100% agree with that. I think everybody should know how to handle and fire a firearm, and safely and effectively. I
yeah.
really think everybody should learn that. That should be taught in school.
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I don't think there should be schools, but yeah, I
Exactly.
understand. But the that made her feel safer with me,
Yeah,
was because I was willing to say, look, there's no way I'm going to harm you when I'm putting a gun in your hand and teaching you how to shoot it.
Right.
You know, so
yeah. I've had so many conversations with my friends or other women that I meet, and they're just so scared of guns. And this one woman was telling me all about how um, it seems like every time her husband is bored, he likes to beat her up, or
Mm.
if he goes away, he'll come back and feel like beating her up just for fun. I said, solve this by you get a gun, you learn how to shoot it, and this will stop.
yeah,
That is true.
I can't do that. I have kids. Well, I have kids too.
Well. On the same note, though, on the same note, she knew what she was getting into to begin with, right? She knew what she was
Right?
doing when she signed that marriage license, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
So it's not entirely his fault, okay?
yeah,
But
But
again, it could be one of those situations where they just dated for 2 or 3 months and decided, hey, let's get married because you're cool.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I think
That's exactly right.
yeah, another big mistake women do is they think that they can marry the rough guy, the bad boy, and then make him change.
Change them.
They'll be
Yeah.
able to change him. But no, that doesn't happen.
The, all everybody I've ever been with, the very first thing they do is go to start trying to change me, and I'm like, look, I'll change aspects about me. I can't change who I am. I'm made who I am. Either like me or don't.
Yeah,
But they get so mad when they can't a lot of times, and it's
yeah,
Well,
like, look,
that's women that want to do that are women that are trying to be the one in charge of the relationship.
yeah.
yeah,
They
And
think they have to be the control freak to keep their man under control.
yeah,
It's just,
because
and don't get me wrong. I think that the balance of power should definitely go both ways in different fields. I definitely think it should be a mutual agreement. I hear people all the time, well, couples say, yeah, a marriage is 50-50. No, it's not. It's a 100-100. You
yeah,
have to do your side. They have to do their side. It's if you're only doing 50-50, then you're not pulling your own weight.
yeah,
yeah. Well, if you're more to the point, if you're only doing 50-50, that means each of you are only giving half.
Right.
You
yeah,
should be giving 100% to the family and the marriage and everything
yeah.
like that. And so,
And Yahweh has to be a part of your relationship
yeah,
all the time. Because if you're excluding him, then it's just not going to work.
yeah. The first time that she got a dream from Yahweh was she woke up crying, and it was a dream that pertained to a particular situation that we were in that that she had a lot of fear about, and it was pretty powerful for her. She was crying.
Yeah,
and,
it came true
yes,
in a strange way.
yeah. And then I told her some of the dreams that I had, and those came true as well. And it's just um, so he's going to communicate with us in how we need to. So that has to be at the forefront of the relationship.
Yeah, I think
So,
when
Right.
you pray, you got to pray honestly too.
yeah, yeah,
I,
because
I'll
no,
You can't hold back.
I'll definitely agree with that. There was something I was studying out. I started back in 2015. 2 years later, I had figured out I had pretty much destroyed my life. I wrecked it. I didn't have anything, and it was because I was so um, just I had to find this out. I was 99.9% positive that what I was looking for was actually real, but I needed that 0.1% so that I could say I know. Well, one night I'm sitting there on the couch, and almost bedtime, and I'm thinking to myself, I need to find this out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go pray. And for about 10 or so minutes, I sat there on the couch, just building myself up like I'm fixing to go pray, and I mean this. I've got to know, and I'm fixing to be diligent. Well, anyway, I get to the bed. My head hits the pillow. I turn the light off. My head hits the pillow, and I'm trying to think of the word to get out. And as I think about, like, how do I address this prayer, dear Yeshua? Before I could even say that, I heard this voice say, "I said what I said." And it was not like a a pat on the back, hey, good job, you're doing good, but I did say what I said. No, it was like, get it in your mind, get on with your life. I said what I said. Well, I jumped up out of bed, grabbed a gun, turned the light on, cleared my house. Like, nobody's here. I know what I heard. I know what I heard. It was somebody in my room. It was a man, but
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
when
So
yeah,
but that's the key. That's the key thing is keeping at the core of the relationship, and making sure that you are honestly communicating with
and,
the other person.
and say this is important, and I mess up all the time. I can't afford to mess up right now. So show me the way.
Yeah, and you have to. You can't communicate with the other person based on what you think that person wants to hear.
Right, right.
You have to say things honestly.
But respectfully too.
Yeah.
Because you gotta respect each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
That's a key thing, and um, so that's not saying that you're not gonna make mistakes. You're gonna mess up. You're gonna say something the wrong way. You're gonna say things because something else is frustrating you, and then how it comes across to the other person makes them feel like you're taking it out on them. And
Yeah, that's just life.
so you got to understand that things like that are going to happen. So understanding of the other person has to also come into play. You have to think about where that person is at. How is that person feeling? That person,
Right.
Did that person just have an argument with their mom?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
did he just have an argument with his boss at work? Things like that.
Right. And stuff like that doesn't just come overnight. That takes a lot of time to get to know the other person to where you can see that, hey, they're having a bad day. I can tell because of their actions or their feelings. And when it comes to feelings, I don't know if I might be just losing my mind about this or anything, but a couple of years ago, I went to the Take on the World conference in 2021. And when I got there and I started getting around these people, there was just this aurora. I mean, you could feel everybody there just loved everybody, or they cared for people. I had never experienced that before. Sure, there's people around me in my life that I could feel that they cared about me or loved me or something. But when I was around all of those people and I felt that, it almost gave me a headache, to be honest with you. It was so overwhelming. I never felt that before. And I think that we do put off an aurora around each other, and when we get to know each other, we notice that amongst each other a lot better. We notice what that feeling feels like. Well, I could tell that my spouse is having a bad day because I can feel that in them.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty weird.
Yeah.
But
it's funny, dogs can notice that before humans can.
I think so. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think they're really good at it.
Yeah, they're very perceptive.
Yeah, and also you can't make assumptions about what the other person is thinking or feeling.
Right.
Because and you can't assume that person must be thinking this or that person must be feeling this.
Men and women are very different.
Yeah.
Especially emotionally.
They're supposed to be.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, it's like what I tell people before that in a relationship, the man and the woman are supposed to balance each other.
Right.
And if the balance is off, like on a teeter-totter, if that balance is off, it's going to flop over. And so the two have to balance each other, but you also have to have understanding in there as well. So it has to go both ways. You have to be willing to share, but you also have to have understanding of the other person as well. So,
right.
And when you get when you meet that person and you can talk to them and you communicate with them, and then when you meet up with them, it's going to be much more, because then you're able to see how they're feeling and how they're reacting much more than you would online.
Right. So, I agree. And it's hard to touch somebody through a computer screen and being in that proximity of somebody, it's different. I
Yeah.
mean, we can talk to our, and I'm just using this as an example, but we could talk to our favorite movie star or something on screen, but when we get around them, a lot of times people just, "Oh, I don't know what to say," or something. They get nervous or something. It's different.
Yeah.
But the last question, and like I said, I think we covered it a good bit, but would you say things like social media and dating apps, within reason, have been helpful or harmful to the way people interact with one another? And I would say yes.
I think
Yeah.
I think it has. I think most of social media has been harmful,
I
but
agree.
um, but certain aspects of it are helpful if it's used as the tool that it is, and um, you don't use it to try to create some facade about yourself that
Right.
that hides the truth. And
Yeah, like with the computer filters and the AI, it's so much easier to hide the truth now.
yeah,
But it's more important to be able to get through, get around it.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
But
so
so that's kind of always been around, though. It's like I grew up thinking that men like Ginger from Gilligan's Island more than Marianne
yeah,
because she is more fake. She was just perfect. She, and and I didn't believe him when he said no. Men actually prefer Marianne. She's more down to earth. Um, she's pretty without trying to be fake and glamorous. So
Right.
we were arguing about this, and then we went out to a restaurant, and he to prove his point, he went around to every single man in the restaurant and asked him, Ginger or Marianne?
and all except one drunk
One
guy,
very drunk guy.
they all said Mary Ann.
I'll be.
I didn't believe him until he had done that.
Well, I don't know a lot about the show. I've seen it a couple times, but if that's correct, if Marianne was more open and honest, absolutely, that's what I
Well,
She
you
was a
see,
country girl.
looks fade so quickly.
yeah,
It,
yeah, but personality doesn't.
exactly. I don't know if it ever does.
Yeah, and you see it. It's the and the the Gilligan's Island scenario there is a good archetype of what you're talking about. Men prefer women who are honest and they care about other people. They're empathetic and compassionate. They like um, ones who don't try to put up some kind of facade.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the Ginger character, that's all she does is a facade.
It's
Right.
She's very fake,
glamorous,
lots of
extremely fake.
makeup,
Yeah.
and the glamour and all the glitzy clothes and the done up hair and the nails and everything like that. But she's totally useless because she can't do anything. Whereas Marianne, if something needs to be done, Marianne was always right there. Oh, I'll help. I'll help. Let's do this.
She was a farm girl.
Yeah. And so,
Yeah.
that's been shown that more men prefer that kind of thing than the Ginger that hides behind all the skin tight, slinky clothes and the makeup and the hair and everything like that.
Right.
So,
Well, on that same line, it's just that mindset is being pumped into their minds all the time, everywhere they look.
Yeah.
It's television, the mall, go to McDonald's, for crying out loud, and listen to the radio. I mean, it's everywhere. It's just pumped into their mind, just constantly. And I just wish they would just quit listening to all that nonsense. It's just
Yeah.
it's
I
not worth it. It's not gonna change who you really are.
Yeah, I think men. It's easier for men because can be naturally brave, but women um, we want to fit in. We're so desperate to be like other women and not stand out and not be cast aside for being different. But sometimes you just got to say, all right, I'm going to be different, and that's okay.
Yep.
Like
And be
we're
bold about it too. Like own it.
Yep.
And if more people see your confidence and your boldness, like, hey, I don't care whatever anybody else thinks of me. I know who I am.
yeah,
Maybe some younger girls or something like that, they'll say, hey, you know what? That's my hero because they're brave. They don't mind what people think about them.
Yep.
And
yeah. Yeah, we were at we had to go to this function for his work. And and so I was around all these women while all the men were hovering around the grill because their boss kept burning the burgers, and the business was selling meat, but yet their boss couldn't
You could cook a
grill
burger.
anything without burning it. So I'm at this table with all the women, and they're all talking about their nails and looking at each other's nails, and it's like, oh, well, I don't do anything with my nails. I don't want to talk about mine. And they're talking about how much they dislike their husbands. So that was the two topics of conversation: is how much they
hmm,
dislike their husbands and how much they put into their nails.
Yeah.
So I'm looking around and I'm trying to think of some way to connect with these women. And it was at this person's house, and I noticed there's a little planter box. So I say, so, oh, I see you have a little garden set up. Do you do any gardening? And she's like, oh no, it would ruin my nails. Like,
Yeah.
all right, well, I tried.
Yeah.
well, you brought up something, and it really brings something to mind that about the social media stuff. I think it's been a good thing as well because we're Torah observant, right? We
Right.
study things that most churches just aren't going to touch. A matter of fact, a lot of them even teach against it and stuff like that. Well, then I started reading the scriptures and I let everybody know. But the way this little old small town is once one person knows, everybody knows because they love to gossip. But except you won't know. They won't let you know. They'll let everybody around you know, but they won't tell you. But anyway, I kind of got ostracized by everybody. I don't have friends around here. I've got one. I got a couple. They're really good people, but uh, pretty much all my friends left. I don't have any family anymore. When my mom passed, that my aunt's all I got left now. I've got a brother, but I don't know. He just he's done gone off the deep end.
Yeah.
And anyway, when I found Discord, I started finding a few people on there that were in the same shape, in the same situation. Like, how do you go to a conversation? I mean, like a picnic or something, and start talking about, well, we're not supposed to eat that pork, or
Right.
you know, how do you do that? And the first thing they do, what are you, Muslim? What are you, Jewish? No, I'm not. I'm an American that reads the Bible. You know, so a lot of times it's like I can't go hang out with anybody because they don't want me around. I can't carry on a conversation. But then social media, like Discord, for example, it came along and I met a family. I met people that I can talk to about anything that comes across my mind, and I'm not looked down upon and talked bad about. I mean, sure, everybody's going to say, well, yeah, such and such said this over here. Yeah, Anthony said that. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, they don't let it get to them. It's not like they're going to hold any grudge, but they'll correct you or say, hey, yeah, that's a good job or something. So I think social media has done a good thing in that aspect.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a good tool while we're living in the diaspora.
Yeah.
So
Everybody's spread out everywhere. It's hard to find people with the same mentality as you,
Yeah.
except on social media, things like that.
like
uh,
there's people I hear talking online that well, what we need to be doing is we need to be going to one certain place and all the believers come together. No, that's not going to happen because we are meant to be in the diaspora right now. That is a consequence of the sins of our ancestors who, they turned away from following the Torah. They turned away from Yah, and they got spread. They got cast out. And
yes,
so, you know, but this is a good tool for doing interactions just like what we're doing right now. But it has to be used as a tool. You can't use if you're not going to be successful at anything if you're using it to try to put up some kind of a front.
right.
This facade that you put up that is all this fakeness.
Yeah,
It's not going to work out.
I guess it does make it easier too. In one way, is you can go to Facebook and look at a person's if all their pictures are pictures of themselves, then you can tell pretty quickly that's a narcissist.
Yeah.
Or if they have all these pictures of their dog, then you can tell quickly that's all they care about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, you can kind of get a feel of the person by, like, on Facebook, of looking over that person's profile and reading through things and looking at their pictures and everything. And it's people 15, 20 years ago would think, oh, that's creepy. but people just don't communicate anymore.
I sure don't.
They don't write letters. They don't heck, people don't even write thank you notes anymore.
Yeah.
It's so you have to have some way of communicating on a real level.
And so it makes it more valuable, though, when you take paper and you write a handwritten letter to somebody, they treasure it.
Yeah.
So if you do these simple
Yeah.
things that people take for granted, you really stand out.
I agree. And I can't say that I have every one of them, but like people would send me like a birthday card or something, which I don't celebrate birthdays anymore, but they would send it to me and they would write a little note on the inside of it. I still got them in a box back there. I'm not throwing that away. That was special. Somebody took the time to write that out to me. But I'm guilty too. I don't write people letters and stuff like that. I try to.
In the age of texting, we have, even though with things like this, and with texting and with the internet and everything like that, they say we're in the communication age, but I don't think it's a communication age. I think it's a lack of communication. I think we send messages, but we're not communicating. Especially,
it's all surface stuff,
Yeah.
shallow stuff.
Yeah, it's meaningless words that there. This is the reason why in texting, spelling things doesn't matter anymore. They don't care about it because you're not really communicating anything.
There's no emotion. There's no excitement, stuff like that.
There's just no feeling, thought, or message behind what they're saying. It's all
that's right.
Just vapid surface talk.
But we have, there's collections of all the letters written by the founding fathers, and they thought deeply about everything. They discussed it,
and they would write it down.
Yes, we have the letters between Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, and they had a lot of disagreements, but they were They just the thinking level was so beyond what is normal today.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yep.
but that is the thing that somebody who is looking for another person on the internet, you got to be willing to do. You got to
Yeah.
get rid of all those facades and everything like that, and be willing to communicate on a real level with this person, and that has to come first.
And I
Yes.
think, yeah, writing physical letters to each other is very helpful because it's more of a commitment
Yeah.
because once you
You're
write
right.
something, you have to keep rewriting it. So you got to think very carefully about what you're saying and the words you're using.
Not long after she and I started communicating with each other, her birthday came up,
Yeah.
and knowing how the two of us are about history and things like that, I went out and I got her a complete works of Alexander Dumas's The Three Musketeers stories,
Yeah.
and then I wrote inside the front cover to her about it and mailed it to her.
Yeah. It
Totally
was the
surprised
perfect.
her. And
Yeah.
and
It
so
was such a perfect birthday gift. It's like he really knows me.
so
I, I'm glad that we're kind of talking about this because just well over the last week, I've kind of been in a not a heated discussion, but a difference of opinion type of discussion, and I think it's going really well. It's not a bunch of fighting and name calling or something like that going on, but I have done lost my train of thought actually where I was going with that. But the thing is as long as we can discuss things in a manner such as that, whether we have 100% disagreement, we'll still we'll still come together. It in a am I losing service again?
yeah.
It's frozen for us. Me wiping mine.
Are they there? You there now?
Yeah.
I think so. I,
Okay.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I just
Uh
don't get what I pay a lot of money for this internet, and it's terrible.
oh. Well, yeah.
I know we had them come out and they installed a new cord in the ground and gave us a new modem box, and it's still
Yeah.
we still lose internet.
Well, for
Yeah.
the first number of years, I think for the first 4 or 5 years that we were here, there was actually no telephone service in our area.
Yeah.
There were no telephone lines.
Yeah, we had to have cell phones. Just
Yeah, you had to have cell phones. You didn't have phone or internet. And it wasn't until a few years later they came out and they actually ran the cable from further down the road out to here and then to our house. And there was no landlines or anything like that out here. So
Well, you know what's odd? Where I live, when I was born, we had phones. We had a phone line. They had party lines back then where
yeah,
everybody was on the phone, same phone number. But the thing is it improved over time. But now we don't even have a phone line anymore. It's there, but it's just not in use. Nobody on this road has a house phone anymore.
yeah, yeah. And everybody's got smartphones and we've gotten stupider.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
We got
yeah. Yeah, phones got smarter, we got dumber.
that's
So,
right. Well, y'all, that was
you
all of
have
my questions,
any more
and
questions?
I don't know for sure if I'll be able to cut any of this out. Would y'all be okay if I wasn't able to just to upload it this way? Because
yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah, we're okay.
all right,
Do whatever you like.
It's your video, so
I have
well,
hyperactive tear ducts, so
that means she cries a lot.
hey, I
We
do
don't go
too.
through a movie. We do not go through a movie that she doesn't cry about.
yeah. I don't
So-
think I've ever seen a movie where I would cry.
So,
When I learned that the Torah was still important, and that I thought that I've been in church my whole life, when I thought that everything I was doing was right, and then when I found out that everything that I was doing was wrong, I cried for a week straight. I'm not joking.
Oh,
I would wake up in the morning crying. I would go to sleep crying. I could not stop. And it's not that I was sad about anything, or sure, I was sad that I had been so wretched my whole life. That made me sad and angry with myself. But I just knew that I knew what our Messiah had done for us, and that just broke my heart. And I don't ever want to put him through anything like that again. Um, but yeah, I'm kind of thinking maybe I don't need to be crying on camera neither, but I do want to thank y'all very much for sharing y'all story and sharing y'all's ideas and opinions about the topic and stuff. It was very pleasurable visiting with y'all and getting to meet y'all.
yeah,
oh, we enjoyed being a part of this with you. Thank you.
yeah. Well, it's yeah, just we we think that it's really important for young Torah following people to be able to find another spouse, because we know that that's an issue with our own kids. They're both adults now, and being able to think about how we're going to find a spouse for them. Well, you know,
Or
um,
help them find somebody.
yeah,
It's hard.
yeah,
Yes,
I liked the way things were done 200 years ago, where the parents were involved in trying to help their child find a spouse.
yeah,
Nobody
right.
nobody cares about that anymore.
yeah,
Yeah, we try to tell other adults that we're trying to help our kids find someone to marry, and that immediately shuts them off. They start saying, "Don't push your kids into marriage. They shouldn't. You shouldn't force them to get married against their will." We're not.
no, we're just trying to
It's
find somebody.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with that. As a matter of fact, we can look at Genesis 24. Abraham sent Eliezer to go find Isaac a wife.
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. But that's looked upon as being abusive now, to
yeah.
try to prearrange a marriage for your daughter, particularly your daughter.
But
You
it's
know,
not. We're
Yeah,
just trying to help them meet people.
yeah, yeah. Because I've
right.
noticed that, as even among Torah followers, as the kids get to be teenagers, their social life tends to get harder. Um, and
Yeah, people
yeah,
of their age they just stay at home and uh, play video games, or if they're not working, and
yeah,
Right.
it's not really conducive to meeting people. And
yeah. Unless you're meeting the wrong kind of people.
just because
Yeah,
you're playing a video game with them online, that's not a friendship.
yeah,
Exactly. And and there the same thing goes for like social media type dating stuff. Just because this person is speaking with you, that don't mean that's the one Yah has set for you. We've got to be diligent in our understandings and in our ways and in our thinking.
and
And
and parents need to understand that they need to be involved in their kids' lives,
Yes,
and
that's
yes,
the thing.
be willing to say to your son or daughter, this person might not be right for you, because you need to look at it from an outside perspective. Don't look at it from the standpoint of, oh, I think this person's just not good enough for my son. Well,
yeah,
that's not how you need to approach it. You need to approach it from the standpoint of, look at how the relationship is acting out. Is this person trying to be controlling of your son or daughter? Is this person trying to be manipulative? Is this person seem like they're not delving into things? be willing to communicate these things with your child. And and parenting doesn't stop just because the kid turns 18.
No.
So
Right.
you've got to be willing to give words of wisdom to your child.
Yeah, because they're gonna go through things in life, and they're gonna want someone to give them sound advice, and you've got to expect that, and not be afraid of it.
Yeah, and you don't want it. You don't want that advice to come from their friends at work or at
Yeah.
school or something like that.
Right. And there again, like our work friends should remain our work friends, and our real friends should remain our real friends. And don't get me wrong, being at a job, meeting somebody that turns out to be your friend. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but just because you have to work with somebody doesn't mean they're your real life true friend. You're
Right.
friendly at work, you get along and stuff like that. Um,
Yeah.
I think social media could be sort of the same way. If we start thinking that everybody on our Facebook friends list is our actual friend, we could be in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but well,
Yeah.
I hope we've gotten everything for your video that you wanted,
Brother,
including some
that
technical
was more than I expected, to be honest with you. That was amazing. This was y'all really should do a YouTube channel just covering y'all's advice to about y'all advised me on several things that I'm not even looking for a wife.
We got a lot of opinions and a lot of stories. And that's just tip of the icebergs.
Yeah, opinionated is something that's often described as us.
Yes.
Hey, we all got that. We all got that. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with that. But thank y'all very much, and yeah, I'm gonna stop the recording, but y'all don't go just yet. But I want to thank y'all very much for hanging out and sharing y'all's story. It was amazing and beautiful.
Oh, thank you. It was our
Thank y'all
pleasure.
very much.
Thank you for thinking of us.
Yes.
I wanted to hear our long-winded
And our diatribes and tangents
yeah.
That's some of my favorite conversations. What we've talked about today. That's some of my favorite conversations.
Well, we're glad we entertained
Yeah,
you.
I explained to my mom once is that I want a man who I'm happy to be standing next to in a dark alley at night.
There you go.
That's what I'm looking forward to. Someone I know who's got my back and gonna be there.
Yep. Well, thank y'all very much for sharing, and hopefully we'll stay in touch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I gotta stay on Facebook quite a bit now. On Saturdays, I don't get on Facebook, and I know that's not the Sabbath, but that's just when most of the people that I know fellowship. But I mean, we do keep the different. Which actually, I'm going to start next year keeping a different calendar, because I don't want to start in the middle of the year, because it's going to mess everything else up. It's going to mess the feast up and stuff like that. So basically, I'm just kind of going along with what the people I hang out with, what they do, and just kind of do it about the same time.
Well, I would say that if you wanted to start keeping the scriptural calendar, then now is actually a really good time to do it, because this coming weekend is going to be the beginning of the seventh month, which, according to Scripture, the new moon day of the seventh month is the Feast of Trumpets.
That's what they used to say, is no man knows the day or the hour.
Yeah.
Well, they were talking about Feast of Trumpets.
Yes, and it's the day that we are making that noise to warn the world that his time is coming. And then
Right.
10 days from then is going to be Day of Atonement. And then 15 days from the Feast of Trumpets is going to be Tabernacles. And so that's all coming up in this next
the
month.
7th month is a big
And
month.
you know, that's
Oh yeah.
that is it's keeping the Feast of Tabernacles is talked about in Isaiah and Jeremiah as being what the Messiah is going to be looking for people coming back, or for when he comes back. Is that
Right.
they'll be keeping the Feast of Tabernacles. And to know, the first thing you have to be able to do in keeping the feasts is know when to keep them according to his word.
Exactly.
And, you know, you go through, just read through Leviticus, and it tells you exactly what days in the year each one of the holy days are. And
Yep.
so we've got them coming up. And, you know, I look at it from the standpoint of if you know something is the truth, start keeping that truth.
And
Yes.
expect that doing the calendar, things like that, is going to separate you from the world. That's kind of the point.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So,
It truly does.
And
Yeah.
that includes other people who are saying they're Torah followers, but when really they're ritual followers. They
Yes.
look at, well, I don't want to be separate from the Jews because the Jews keep Sabbath on Saturday every week. Well, there's no heptad in Scripture, and they didn't start keeping a heptad until Hillel II was the chief priest of the Sanhedrin, and that was about 160, 170 years after the time of Yeshua. And that's when
Right.
he was doing that to comply with the Romans.
So when Yeshua says, "I come not to bring peace, but a sword," that's.
I think a lot of people miss that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people miss. They think that he's going to come back and just hug their neck, say, "Oh, I just love the way you sinned your whole life. You worker of lawlessness. Come on in." I don't think he's going to be doing that. If somebody's going to be there during the millennial reign and they do wrong, they're going to get their butt whooped.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
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 Yeah. You know, so that where he talks about how there will be one left and one will be taken. There will be two in the field and one will be taken. There will be two at the grindstone and one will be taken. Well, those ones that are taken are not in the Tim LaHaye.
That's not the rapture.
Rapture thing. Okay?
Nope.
Those people are taken out and cast away. You see, they're not taken up to heaven and everything like that. The ones that are
Matthew 13, 36 through 43, it says the tares are going to be gathered to the fire.
Yes.
And then the wheat's going to be gathered to the barn. Yeah. And what people say, they'll say, "Oh, that's a parable." Well, Yeshua was already speaking in parables, but when his apostles came to him, he described it in literal terms. And I think a lot of people miss that about Matthew 13. Not all of it's a parable.
Yeah. And so, well, because the apostles were self-admittedly dumb and didn't understand anything he was saying.
Good for us, they ask questions.
Yeah, so it benefits us. They ask the questions. Yeah. What are you talking about? Yeah. So and so he had to explain it to them. But those
just like us though,
wise.
They were taught the wrong way their whole life too. I mean, look at the Pharisees and the Sadducees. They were teaching false doctrine, and that's who Yeshua came to reprimand.
Yeah.
So,
and to this day, in Mark chapter 7, when Yeshua was talking to the Pharisees and the Sadducees, he told them that you are nullifying the traditions of Yahuwah with the traditions of men.
Exactly.
And those very people that he was talking to right then some of those men wrote parts of what is today the Talmud, which is what Judaism follows. Judaism follows the Talmud. If you went to a Jew and you started talking to him about scripture and you ask him something about something from the Torah, they're not going to answer you from the Torah. They're going to answer you from the Talmud.
Exactly right.
Who wrote some of those men that Yeshua was chastising at that time wrote parts of the Talmud, which is rabbinic teaching, and it was teachings of men, and so that's the reason why so many people are misguided and so much is because they're going on teachings of men rather than teachings of God.
I think it makes a lot of people afraid that if they start following scripture more, they see that they're becoming more separate from the world. But that's just required.
Well, it
it's
exposes
just the way the world is.
It exposes your sin. The more you closely you follow scripture, the more you're going to realize how far you are from Yahweh. And then you have to then either give up the world or give up Yahweh.
Yep. You're 100% right. Can't serve two masters.
Yep. So that's what it comes down to. And people are people like the facade they have with these other people. There's no facade with Yahweh. He knows our hearts. He knows our minds. He knows our very soul. And so, that's the long and the short of it. So, but we need to let you go. So,
I got to be at. Well, I'll tell you in just a moment. I'm gonna go ahead and tell y'all again. Thank y'all very much for sharing the things that y'all did, and hopefully I'll see y'all in the chat whenever this goes live and everything.
Yeah, send me the link to it in the in Messenger.
I sure will. And many blessings to y'all. And that was a lovely story for both of y'all. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting us talk. We enjoyed it.
You have a good day.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Hey, y'all don't go nowhere. I'm just gonna kind of end this right quick.
All right.
Okay.
Thank y'all. All right, everybody. I hope y'all enjoyed that, and I know it's a little bit long, but I had some issues with the internet as usual. But hopefully y'all enjoyed that. Please hit the like, share it out with your friends, your neighbors, whoever you think might be who might find this interesting or informative. But thank you very much. Many blessings and peace.